It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Yeah. No fear. Here on Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, from the Sunday Desert, 70 miles west of Phoenix, out in, leave me aloneism. And this is, going to be a story of leave me aloneism, but, they don't leave you alone. And then sometimes you pick on the wrong guy. Chris Horlacher. All right. Now, this is, we did a show back in, it was 3.5 years ago. It was in January 2003. Chris Horlacher came on, explained how he was in a lawsuit against the Five Eyes intelligence community of, what is it? It's Canada, United States, New Zealand, Australia, and the UK. Yeah, I think I got it right. So the Five Eyes, that's all, it's illegal for us to surveil our people. Here, you do it, and then tell us everything. It's just, it's so ridiculous. But I want to get the whole story out, and I'm going to do this. There's a lot more at it. I'm going to try and be good, be quiet today, and let Chris tell the whole thing because we got time this time. We're going to just do doing the talk show circuit. We got a lot of fans of his and ours, and said, man, you got to talk to Chris again. And he just did a show with Dan Dix, which is Canadian, so I know he wanted to slap the Canadian government around. So this is going to be a full story. We're going to get the whole thing. Now, Chris Horlacher, father, husband, he's a financial professional in tech, crypto, inventor, big brain, top of the heap guy. You're either for us or against us, They target people. They even got a word for it. He's going to explain that it is a identifying intelligent, capable entrepreneurs in fields of interest that you want to make sure that it's not out of your control. When you dealing with the banking system, payment systems, equities, exchanges, brokeraging, selling, buying, trading, anything to do with the financial industry, if you're there to disrupt the gazillions of dollars that, what Patrick Byrne calls it, the bleed, or pig's breakfast, it's that any trading that goes, it just bleeds the system without any effort. There's no value added. It's just another layer of bureaucracy of you have to, you can't, you always, and they glean a cut. It's just a flow of money that goes out. And when you make that more efficient, or you inject technology in there that does it and bypasses a whole bunch of somebody else gets the money, it's just a bleed, they don't like it none too much. So they identify you and either make sure you don't do anything or you're doing it for them. That's just the way it is. Well, I don't know what his mindset was going in, what he thought was going to happen when he finally file suit against the intelligence community of the Five Eyes. I'm like, they'll sit back and, let that happen. So what happened was he spent the first part of his career working and consulting for multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies. He then pioneered the creation of the world's first fully featured crypto securities protocol, capable of cross-chain atomic swaps that was poised to disrupt a $10 billion per year security transfer agent and custody industry. And months before the launch, his company fell victim to the coordinated assault by the Five Eyes spy network, targeted by infiltrators, state-level hackers, and with his wife nearly kidnapped. He resolved to fight back with every tool at his disposal, and he, kind of cryptoed up guy. So he's like, all right, for humanity, here we go. Now Chris, stands on the cusp of, at the time, there's no way we can lose this $120 million lawsuit against a Canadian spy agency. Hell, just even say that makes you smile, Well, of course, we're on the cusp of victory, of going against, we got it, all the evidence and everything, hands down on what they did. They're up against the wall. We're going to get some now. Wow, to even say that. We're going to find out what Chris has learned and where we're at in this. So what I want to do, it was in 23 that he goes down to Narcapoco, speaks. We have him on the show. We talked about a lot of this, but now he has more evidence. Understanding the tactics that they're using, he can use. He can employ, honeypots. He can, try and get, do the O'Keefe, I'm wearing a wire, kind of explain to me how strong and stallion you are and how you screw people, right here into this, flower, and let me know what's up. So over time, he's gathered a bunch of evidence and he's going to give us an update. So I want to, but first, I know we've done this before. I'm always the why guy, but I need the motivation from the beginning. How was it that you were identified as this enormous threat to the Five Eyes intelligence, to the banking thing, to competition with the securities industry, and they identified? How did they identify you? How was it that you got in the crosshairs? Let's start from the beginning. And one, why did you create this technology? How was it that you had the confidence to do it? We need to know the young teenager, 3-year-old. At 7, I realized how effed up the system was, and I wanted to save humanity and what. That's what I need. The origination story of Chris Horlacher, of why you're in this space and doing what you do. And now that you probably got a couple of dimes, you got a nice place in Mexico now. You got your woman with you and living large, but you're compelled to do this. So that always comes back to an origination story of you and something. So Chris, start from before the beginning, and let's get up to now. We got time, and I want to get this all packaged so that anybody interested in this goes to this show, and you got to express yourself fully starting now.
Well, thanks for having me on again, Ernest, and I'm glad we've got the time to really, really dive deep into this story, because the backstory, I think, is maybe as interesting as the front story. I guess I don't know what to call. I don't know what to call that. But I guess if we want to go all the way back, let's go all the way back to little baby Chris was born in October 28, 1981, and he had kind of a normal childhood up until age 8. And age 8 is when everything went sideways. His whole idea of family and responsible parents, I guess, just completely collapsed because his mom changed on him, became, the loving mother that he knew, and turned into somebody else entirely that he no longer wanted anything to do with. And father was just busy with work, couldn't be bothered, couldn't care. And so from age 8 on, I became a fiercely independent person. And once I became a teenager, I joined Air Cadets, which is like a pseudo-military unit, and did very well in Air Cadets. I actually went to all of the most elite training camps. I went to a leadership camp, which was basically officer training. And I also got snuck in to a survival instructor course, which I was not technically even old enough to go in. I was 15, and the minimum age was 16. But my commanding officer was so confident in my abilities that he said, no. You go to the senior instructor's course, not the junior one. You're going to be okay. And I was. I went through the training. They threw me in the woods with nothing but the clothes on my back and a canteen of water for a week. I survived. I passed. And I am a military-grade survival instructor. And school-wise, always did very well in school with very little effort. Was tapped for several gifted programs. I flew like a simulated mission to the moon when I was in my early teenagers, and so yeah, I had to do orbital calculations and basically launch.
Man, I'm thinking you're getting on a bunch of lists, is what I'm thinking. Okay, they look at your bio, the file of the equivalent of the FBI. God damn, he's working for us.
Yeah. So I spent most of my childhood just trying to achieve things and build up my own self-confidence because I wasn't getting that from my parents or my friends or really anybody. I had a group of friends, but they weren't like the super loyal, trustworthy friends that I think a lot of people get. They were more of the kind of friends who just sort of prank everybody all the time. It was more of like a group of from Jackass
teenagers
and real friends. I guess that I spent my
teenagers. It was a high school clique. I get it.
Yeah. My group was like it was like more like an episode of Jackass than any really
there you go
band of brother kind of friendships. So,
tells us everything we need to know. All right.
So yeah, that was my group of friends, and I was a bit more serious than they were, so I never really kind of fit in with those antics. And so since going to university, I originally went into engineering at McMaster University, which is kind of like the MIT of Canada. A couple of years into it, though, I flipped over to business school because I was actually doing a double degree of engineering and business, and I actually saw that the market for engineers was not doing too good. Actually, what had happened was I was
working.
What kind
of engineering?
Well, it was called engineering physics, which is kind of like a wild card type engineer. Engineering physics is
get the base. Yeah, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, engineering physics is mastery over several disciplines of engineering all at once, and it's one of the hardest engineering paths at McMaster. But
thus you picked it. Okay.
Yeah,
I want to ask a couple of questions here.
Yeah.
This is a story as you get older, and you have acquaintances and you go through a life story of a lot of people and so on. There's a common thread. The ones that are most threat to they, them, those, because if you're not in control, you're out of control. We can't have out of control people, intelligent and able to kind of no, hell no. That's how empires fall. We can't. We gotta get them in the cradle. We're gonna that kind of thing. That's the mindset. And I'm wondering what character or intellectual trait that you identified the most with your capabilities. Was it memory? Was it math? Was it, abstract thinking? You're building motorcycle engines in your head. Your Tesla. I need to kind of get where your intelligence served you the most. What was it that you amplified? What wolf did you feed?
It's hard to say, I think, because I straddled a few different things. I was a very technical, very mathematical, scientifically minded person, but at the same time, I wasn't super socially awkward or timid, like so many of that type is.
You weren't on the spectrum.
I guess not. I could be extraordinarily assertive, domineering if I needed to be because of my time in Air Cadets. I rose through the ranks and became the chief warrant officer of an entire Air Cadet squadron when I was 17. So that's like becoming the CEO of a company with 80 plus people in it.
Right.
As a teenager. I'm already doing that. So I'm, hyper intelligent, hyper competent individual is graduating and going into university as he's discovering his personal politics as well. And this is leaning towards more and more and more, as many very intelligent people do, towards becoming very skeptical of government. I think everybody knows the Mensa Society, but there's a society above Mensa called, I think, the 999 Club. And the 999 Club is like the 0.1% most intelligent people on the planet. And they've done polls of people from the 999 Society, and every single one of them invariably is a hardcore libertarian, which I thought was interesting when I found out that little snippet. But I was always leaning towards more politically conservative, more politically libertarian. Even as a teenager, I watched politics, and my mom was a school teacher, so she started dragging me to teachers' rallies as a kid. And even then, I'm at these teacher union rallies, looking around at what looks to me like a religious gathering as they're, shouting slogans and freaking out and hollering and singing songs. And like, this seems like a church to me. And so I didn't like teachers, didn't like authority, didn't like government bureaucracies. I thought the whole ritual of voting just seemed like a scam, just to make people believe that the government had authority, and that, because we had invented this process, and then by going through the process, we've legitimized crime.
Therefore, we are ruled. You voted for your massa, so you get that massa, and you participated. I get it.
None of that computed for me. Now let's just pause right there. Okay. It didn't compute for you. Why? See, this is where you have the bifurcation of a character at a young age. I ask people a lot. I want to spend. We got time. I want to spend some time on this because this is an important point to me. When you discover that the world that's trying to be shoved down your throat, you're going, nah. I'm not buying, because I had an authoritarian father. It's kind of same kind of stuff. There's always something that you get a look inside. And for some point in my life, young life, he sold his business, so he became a deputy sheriff. And I'm going, you gave my dad a gun and a badge? Oh, we're screwed now. It's just, so you see it from the inside, like with your mother and the teacher union stuff and philosophically. But why? Was there a grandma and uncle or something that, and then I get people, well, I read Road to Serfdom or discovered Ayn Rand or did some Rothbard or whatever. And I go, Yeah. Why? Well,
what was it that prompted you down that philosophical road? I mean, was it you just critically thought your way into it? Or there was somebody or something, maybe it was in your cadet days, that directed you there's something behind this. And I want to know what it is.
Yeah,
Help me out.
Probably, I think I intuitively kind of, especially I think from my experience in Air Cadets, and then also just looking at government-related activities via my mom's union, and my dad also being a lawyer, and having conversations with him, and also getting to meet his friends who were police officers and judges, and not particularly liking these individuals. I would hear them.
Not my tribe.
Not my people. Like I'd listen to a judge talking about how he just threw a guy in jail and ruined his life because he wasn't very nice to me during the trial, or another cop who's talking about planting evidence. And I'm like, these are the people who we're supposed to think are virtuous, wonderful people, and we should always believe them. But then they're coming over to my house and hanging out with my dad, having beers and talking about all the nasty things that they would do. So I didn't like that either. And then so I grew up in this environment with kind of a intellectual and an instinctual aversion to the people in authority. But it wasn't until I think about my early 20s when this really started materializing into a coherent philosophy, because two things happened. One was the Ron Paul revolution, and the other one was Stefan Molyneux. And Stefan Molyneux is kind of morphed into something else entirely these days. But if you go back and you look at the first 3 or 4 years of what
I remember
he was doing, he was very, very good. I have to say his first 4 or 5 years of work on the podcasting scene is some of the best philosophically libertarian stuff you will ever encounter, because he weaves together such a tapestry of different things into a coherent framework of thought that at the time I thought was just mind-blowing. I was in love with this guy because like you're putting the names to all of the things that I have been trying to nail down now for like the last decade. And
okay, now I want to delve into Molyneux a little bit, because I know Stefan. And I was enamored with some of his early videos. We promote him on Freedom's Phoenix too. But then you get to meet him, and you go, it's always, life is always, I don't know, high school. You know, you go in, yeah, you have all these characters. You go, I know that guy. That was the guy that did this, or the bully that, or the intelligent, or the geek, or the AV, whatever. You know, you have these characters that express themselves when they're teenagers. You can see a lot of this stuff that we're talking about with you. When you meet them and you go, what drives this person? You know, Molyneux was about Molyneux. I mean, it definitely, and he was so good at this stuff, and he had a lot of influential people exactly like you that was part of his little army. Okay, he had these in their mind, and just like anybody else.
I never participated though. I was a Molyneux lurker. I kept out of his forum.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah. I was still in my information gathering phase, and I hadn't really attempted to start speaking about these issues and doing anything. But that did come. At the time, I had just finished university. I had just taken up work at Deloitte, which is the world's largest professional services firm. I was in their largest practice in the largest city in Canada. I was doing manufacturing retail in the Southern Ontario practice. So I had all the great big companies in Canada, the largest retailers, the largest auto manufacturers, all my clients, as well as their pension funds.
You're skipping ahead here. We got to get to how you got there, okay? But this is the point that I wanted to make on the Molyneux thing. You know, forgive me. Let me make this point. Is that one of the videos that he did? I don't know if you remember it. It was Matrix 13 something. I mean, it was, you know, that was the video that I'm like, ooh, man, this guy's got it going on. And I repeat one of the observations that he does a lot, and it was this: a country that does really well because of relatively freedom compared to everything else. You know, you can criticize whatever, but when you have a free market capitalist constitutional republic kind of thing, that creates enormous wealth and a big giant middle class. Why do you rob the banks? Because that's where the money is. Why are you going after the middle class, eating out the substance in the economy in North America? That's where the money is. You know, so it was very clear. And how he framed it, he goes, yeah, you know, you have free-range chickens. And at the time, we had chickens that ran over like 2 acres of our property and stuff. So I witnessed this, you know. I go, got chicken. I'm like, cool. I don't have to bother them. They put themselves to bed. They go out and eat. I have supply a little feed, and thanks for the eggs. You know, it was really, but you start to look at them as a rancher. You know, they're laying the golden egg. You're looking at them as livestock, okay?
Yeah.
Well, he goes, the reason we're so, let me finish. The reason we're so prosperous is the relative freedom that we have in a free-range American chicken people, okay, out there being extremely productive, but you don't realize you're still going to be harvested. All of your production goes to the state, and because it's so productive, this freedom thing, you create a big giant state just because you can get a little bit off of this big giant goose-laying engine over here. But in the end, you're always how you're in the chicken McNugget box, and he shows this little chicken McNugget box, and I go, oh, that's exactly it. I'm like, thanks for explaining that. So this has been a really good example of why Molyneux was so popular, that it was understanding where we are in this and giving a lot of examples. Now, as time went on, and I knew him, and we even debated one time on Christianity or God or whatever. He's definitely a big giant atheist. There is no freaking God. And so it was interesting that my interactions with him and get his perspective. He was playing on the people that did agree with him. They're in their own little echo chamber, building that to do something. I could see it was a megalomaniacal kind of, I got to do, and that you could see it kind of went off the rails there. He was a victim of his own success. But it was at a time that was very necessary for intelligent, I'm awakening, I need it explained, I need it articulated time for people just like Chris. I saw it happen. So that right there, you get exposed to these concepts, this idea, it made you formulation in your young man years of what? You started to come to this crystallization of an understanding of the reality of your relationship, and certainly as you start to float to the top of intelligence and capability and and then it's recognized by the state as well. So you come in with the armor of, I get it, I know who you are, and you are, and you are, and you are, and your role in that, pushing back, taking advantage of opportunity to make something more efficient, whatever, was based on what? What was the realization at this time, the crystallization of Chris Horlacher, and what the real truth is about the situation you faced in your generation to the world? That's what I'm interested in. What kind of person are we dealing with? Because the bad guys, they may got AI for freaking 30 years as far as we know, and they go ding, it used to be a punch card, spits out of the IBM, whatever, Chris Horlacher, go get him. Make him one of yours, or he's freaking enemy to the empire. So this is the philosophy that solidified with you, that carried you through all of this, was what?
Well, I think you picked out the video, that video where Molyneux reframes national boundaries as or nations as farms, and he presented it as, you're not looking at countries on a map, you're looking at the boundaries of human farms.
Yep.
And so that presentation really, it stuck in my mind, and I'm like, that explains a lot. And so then I set out testing it, and I read thousands of years of literature written by ruling class people, like Xenophon. You can read Xenophon's Cyropedia, and literally the very opening statement of the Cyropedia is Xenophon talking about how can we rule our livestock. And I was like, it's right there. For thousands of years, the ruling class has been talking about us, you and me and everybody else, as livestock. And started doing deep dives into eugenics, which I was aware of at the point, but I had not read volumes of Margaret Sanger and Thomas Malthus and all of this kind of stuff. And so I start reading what they wrote in their own newsletters and their books, and these people are absolute freaking monsters. they're demented past the point of being human anymore, because they don't look at other people and see other human beings. They see animals that they get to exploit. And they've constructed a whole system of false morality around that to hide the fact that this is what is actually going on in this world, and not just in America or Mexico or South America, but every country, everywhere, at all times has been this way. It's always been about how to exploit humans. And slavery was just a crude, brute force way of doing it. And things are much more sophisticated now, but the end result is still, how do we extract the most amount of value out of these people before they wake up to realizing what kind of situation they're in and revolt against us? And slave revolts have been the prime concern of the ruling class for thousands and thousands of years. It's right there in all of their literature. You can read it. They talk about it very matter-of-factly. They assume nobody like us is ever going to read those books, but we can, and we do.
This is one thing.
And then we get on podcasts and start talking about it, and then get gaslit into thinking, oh, this person's crazy.
This is one thing. You go to these festivals, like Porcupine Freedom Festival in Acapulco, whatever. Certainly during the Levolution years, from like by the summer of 07, 8, 9, 10, going into the 12 campaign, you go and you would see smart young men such as yourself, late teens to mid 20s, sitting under a tree with their Kindles, reading the libertarian classics, Mises, even science fiction Heinlein. You're getting The Road to Serfdom. You're getting Rothbard, a bunch of stuff. Ayn Rand, and they would be on Mises .org or com or whatever. Mises had a page of suggested reading or whatever. I see these guys, they were immersed in more than they probably were in school. They knew it was all crap, and they're starting to digest all of this. Oh my goodness, there's a gold vein of truth here, and
Absolutely.
They were devouring it, and the man did not expect that. And I saw it at the ground level. I saw people like Chris doing this. Why?
Yeah.
Shit, I don't know. Because they were motivated by, what was it? It's not just individual characters. There's a lot of times, Freedom's Phoenix in this show where we kind of led people to different things or take a look at this and they go on their own. But if they're not self-motivated, you're not going to contain it. You're not going to wrap it in a bow. You're not going to be a voting bloc. You're not going to have your own little army. You're not. I was critical because I came up from the bottom of this and understanding of experience kind of such as you. And what happened was, Ernie, why you didn't trademark the Levolution logo? You didn't do this. You didn't create the... I'm going, you guys don't freaking get it. You can't. It's a spontaneous order thing. So that is what I'm looking to understand, because you're one of the products of that. The Ron Paul Levolution, you already have been kind of prepped for this, and your mindset and your authoritarian or progressive kind of household of this is not it. My tribe ain't here. It's over here somewhere. So you do that. Is it a type of person? Is it, nurture or nature? I mean, I need to know, and you're helping me here, because the audience knows I always focus on this. If there's something, what book? Some kind of encouragement, a narrative, a story, a mythology, something that provides the spark to go down this path, and that resistance is not futile and you don't care anyway. I need to know what that is. Don't you?
Well, I think probably I went into this state from about 2006 to 2012. From Ron Paul's lips to my ears, he started naming things that I had been searching for years at this point. I had never heard the word libertarianism. I had never heard the word Austrian economics. Despite having studied economics at a university level, I had no idea who Ludwig von Mises was or Karl Menger, even though he invented the theory of value that we were all learning. Like, marginalism is a creation of Austrian economics. You would think that this should receive top billing in economics departments because they're all using the Austrian theory of value, marginalism. But they've stolen that away from the people who created it. They don't credit Karl Menger for coming up with this. And, they did give Hayek the Nobel Prize for the Austrian theory of market cycles, but then they very quickly just threw him under the rug and just said, okay, well, we can't discuss this anymore because it implicates the government and market cycles. So we can't talk about that if we want our economics department to keep receiving its federal grants. So the Ron Paul Revolution put a name on a body of knowledge that I had been desperately seeking for years. And I dove into it with complete abandon. And so like half the books up here were books that I read during this phase of my life. And I'm reading Ayn Rand, I'm reading Murray Rothbard, von Mises, another guy, a Swedish guy named Johan Norberg, Milton Friedman. But I'm reading the other side as well. I'm reading Karl Marx and Bakunin and the other like anarchists, which are really just a splinter communist cell that just they're such a bunch of narcissists. They can't.
Yeah, no, Ayn Rand did it well. They're just
even though they're 99% identical, they'll call each other complete polar opposites of one another.
It's just collectivism. It's that central authority kind of thing. Well, we're diehard communist, we're diehard fascist, we're diehard, constitution, you're all collectivists, so I get it. The so
it reoriented my whole political compass to something that had way more clarity. And then I got through my learning phase, and then I decided, okay, well, I want to contribute to something now.
Okay, your contribution. I want to get to that, but before we leave this, we got to build up to this, to the why. Thank you very much. But this is one thing that I want to emphasize. Take a look at this. At the top, the philosophy of liberty is based on the principle of self-ownership. Do you remember this little animation?
I remember when it came out. It was a beautiful thing. Wonderful video. This
is what happened. Me doing this, asking these questions, why? In last November, there was the Arizona Project entrepreneur thing they do every year for decades. I always interview all of them. They come to Arizona, and of course they want to go shooting. But it's always about these entrepreneurs from Nepal, Belize, China, Ukraine, Russia. I mean, it's amazing. All these kids every year they come in, and then of course I interview them, all that kind of stuff. Well, there's one guy from Uganda. And I'm same line of questioning. Why are you like this? What happened? What's the secret sauce? Blah, blah, blah. For the gazillionth time, I kept hearing, well, there was this little animation, 8-minute of philosophy of liberty, self-ownership thing. And I go, damn, that keeps coming up. So Ken Schoolin that created this, the Liberty International, that back it was in 93, he wrote the book, The Adventures of Jonathan Gullible. And he went to Russia after the Soviet Union had fell in 92, 93, and his tour guide, translator, now a billionaire grocer, so we got that, by the way. So what happens, he goes, this needs to be public. Man, we're coming out of the Soviet Union. Property? What the hell are you talking about? We know what you're talking about. I need a primer. I need a base understanding in the Russian language of what this liberty thing is about. So he writes this up. One of the activists, a guy went under Lux Luker, which is a Canadian, took and did a flash animation. This is back in the early 90s. That was high tech, man. Woo! He was one of you guys. Well, then when we started doing radio in 03, he was helping us with the editing. He was just, one of those geek guys out there. I use my services, save humanity kind of guy. Well, he does this. This animation that you're familiar with is now translated into 54 languages. And the first real use of it was for the Russian people coming out of the Soviet Union. And I'm going, well, we need it because we're elected freaking communist to mayor of New York and Seattle and Virginia. I'm going, holy crap. We need to resurrect this. So what we did was this. I'm going to click on it. James Corbett and I, we're going to do a show this evening. Every other week, we do a show. And we created a page called libertas.earth. Libertas, the root word Latin for liberty. So we did this. We put all the languages right there to promote it. You go into your language or something, and we have it all saved in IPFS because they keep deplatforming it. They keep moving it. They keep deleting it. They keep, for exactly the reasons that you got something out of this base understanding. So we put it on IPFS, we put it on the platforms. BitChute, wanted to be the embed, and they promote it and so on. Then down here we have a market, libertas.earth, free market down here. That you can, now you're free. Now what are you going to do? You're going to alternative vendors, alternative currencies, that kind of thing. And then we have these banner ads that you put on your site, and then you get to go to the, you're a promoter. There we go, promoter. And then we put your stuff up there and link back to you. You're a promoter, and that's only interface. There's no sign up. There's no cookies. There's no ID. There's nothing to join. It is a hub for a tool to get people like you down the right path, like the Ron Paul thing did. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
World freaking wide. We just did it like a month ago, and it's taken off. Yeehaw! The man can suck it. This is why I ask these questions all the time. This is why I want to know, what was it that prompted you? What was it that sent you down this path? So now you're on this path, okay? I bring this up because this is what we're, liberty on the freaking earth, earthwide, libertas.earth. This is a tool for people like you to use, to share, because it's unassailable. What they're saying, hey, man, you own yourself or somebody else does. I mean, welcome to the club. So this is why we did this. So that was a commercial for what I wanted to do. Thank you. But you can understand why now that I ask these questions, because I know that it's always a little push, a little direct. You found gold, and you have a gold vein that you're following, and it just keeps being there and productive, and you understand it and agree with it, and you find out and you find your tribe, and you're here. Mm-hmm. So now I want to continue where you left off. Now you're of this mindset. You're going into business. Did you graduate? Did you get a degree? Did you have a job coming out of college? Did you even finish college? Where are you now that you have this mindset and the trajectory there? You have, I know you used to listen to, when we were on the LRN network, you listen to the show, you're kind of familiar with what we do. I know what you do. But you're, from my perspective, I mean, you guys are rare, but they always, with this kind of philosophical understanding and intellectual ability, find themselves supporting this philosophy. It just is a natural, funnel that goes into uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's why that's our motto over at Freedom's Phoenix. It's for people exactly like you. That's why I'm spending time on this, because there are other young men and women like you and other people that may have missed the path, and now they're going, wow, this is the truth. And then you do what? Well, you wind up suing the intelligence community, but we'll get to that. So now you're of this mindset, and you're about how old, where are you in your education, what's your first gig, and how you're monetizing your abilities. Start there. Go.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned I started university at McMaster in engineering and business. I changed majors to another university which had a much better business school than McMaster, and graduated in around 2006, right when the Ron Paul revolution is starting up. And so I graduate university and start working at Deloitte, and I graduate into this new social movement. And so my mind is developing very quickly at this point, because
what social movement?
I'm kind of in self-directed study mode now. I'm reading all of the libertarian authors that Ron Paul is talking about or Stefan Molyneux has been talking about.
Right.
And so I'm working along and studying. Eventually it gets to about 2010, though, and I'm ready to start actually doing things. I don't want to keep consuming more and more and more knowledge. Now I want to do something and make sort of my mark in the world.
Okay, your age at that time was what?
Well, I did two things. I took a job at Euro-Pacific Canada. And this was I was listening to Peter Schiff's Wednesday night ham radio shows at the time. And he had mentioned that he was going to expand into Canada because he was getting so many new Canadians listening to his show and just say, how do I invest with you, Peter? And so he mentions on his show that I'm going to open up a Canadian branch. So I immediately send him a message and say, you know, hi, Peter, I'm so-and-so. I work at Deloitte. I've just become a chartered accountant. And
at what age? How old are you at this time?
At this time, I had just turned 29.
Okay. All right. Continue.
And so I reached out, and I did also mention his father, Irwin, because I had actually ran into Irwin's work with the whole income tax thing, and you don't have to pay it in the law the way the law is all done up. And I thought I was pretty fascinated with that. And at this point in time, I was already very, very opposed to the income tax. And I thought, well, hey, for right or wrong, you know, there shouldn't be an income tax. So I like what you're saying, Erwin. And that translated over to Peter as well. And I sent this message to him. And 2 days later, the CEO and the COO of the Canadian brokerage he was starting up reached out to me and said, come in, we'll interview you. And I did. And then they offered me the chief financial officer role. So I turned in my resignation at Deloitte, became the chief financial officer of Euro-Pacific Canada. And also around the exact same time, I meet another guy named Redmond Weissenberger, because I had seen from announcements online that a Mises Institute of Canada was also starting up. So I started going to the meetups of that, and I met the guy in charge, Redmond Weissenberger, eventually became the Institute's treasurer and a director on the board. And so I thought this was great. I'm working for Peter Schiff. I'm working for the Mises Institute of Canada. I feel like I'm really contributing to this movement and helping to push these ideas forward. Now, now I'm feeling really good about what I'm doing. At around the exact same time as well is when in 2010 is when I found out about Bitcoin and began talking about that, because almost immediately I realized that, well, if this networking technology can do money, it can do any intangible asset. And for me, as the CFO of a securities brokerage, that meant a lot to me, because I deal exclusively in intangible value, billions and billions of dollars of it. And I know exactly how it's traded, executed, settled, registered. I know every step of the process and how the entire infrastructure is stacked up. And there's layers to it, just like there are layers to the banking industry.
Now, the resistance to crypto by Peter Schiff, which is now he's tokenizing his gold and all that kind of stuff. He's getting sucked in. But, the at the time, he's like, it's going to zero, man. Why you messing around with that and don't bother me? And that kind so what was Euro-Pacific's view of what you're coming to the realization of what blockchain could do? Were they supportive? Or were they like, you're going down the dark side? What?
No. I didn't actually mention it that much because Bitcoin was only like the whole thing was only worth a couple $1 million. And I had already decided in my own mind that it wasn't ready for this yet. I'm going to continue studying Bitcoin. I'm going to do consulting work with teams that are trying to build stuff in blockchain. I got to meet most of the founders of Ethereum and could have been one myself, except at the time when they were pitching it to me, I was like, you're building a decentralized cloud compute system, and it's not competitive at all against the existing cloud compute systems. So I didn't at the time think it would go anywhere. I think I'm right. It's worth a lot of money, but we're not seeing much actual stuff happening on Ethereum. So it is what it is. And when they introduced the ERC20 contract standard, I was pretty worried about it because I saw a gateway now had just been built for all of the worst elements of the securities industry to compile into crypto. And that's exactly what happened.
Yep. Goldman sucked.gov coin, shoehorned and everything into the legacy banking system. There's a blockchain for that. I mean, you know, I get it, man.
But all the junior miner pump and dumpers flooded into crypto and started doing ICO scams. Yeah. And that triggered
coin offerings.
That triggered a very hostile reaction from securities regulators. And I wasn't myself particularly pleased because I'm looking at a lot of them and realizing very quickly, these are securities that they're selling. They're selling straight up equity in a company, but they're saying it's not equity, it's a coin because we've put it on this digital network instead of the original system that you're currently using. And like, from my perspective, it doesn't matter how you record the ownership, whether it's on a decentralized network or not. That doesn't matter.
Here comes all this tokenization stuff.
What are the attributes of the thing itself? And if it gives you a share of a company's profits and lets you vote or help or direct the management of the company, that's freaking equity, guys, and get out of my space. Stop calling these things initial coin offerings. You're going to cause an absolute disaster. And they did. You know, 2017, 2018, so many companies got destroyed by the regulators, including mine.
Okay, now we're getting into where, you know, we're heading to, but there's one more thing before we do that I wanted you to expand on. You said, I'm at Europack. I'm doing what I think I should be doing, needing to do, see this new technology going. And you said I was feeling good about, you know, what you were doing. Feeling good.
Yeah.
Why? I'm feeling good.
Because
there was a reason why. You had your own standard. Why were you feeling good?
Because I was contributing my own thoughts and my own creations into the fray. I felt like I wasn't sitting on the sidelines anymore. I was actually participating and contributing, and people would be reading my articles or coming to my monthly talks at the Mises meetups. And, you know, oh, you're the guy who did this video or did that video. I loved it. And it was a nice time because I felt validation
of a lifetime of I freaking get it. I found my tribe.
Exactly. And so also in 2010, when I began talking about Bitcoin, I began talking about the idea I had to modify, add in some extra functionality to the Bitcoin protocol and make it into something that can not only be digital currency, but also digital securities, as well as investor relations and communications and earnings distributions and the whole shebang, everything that an issuer needed to interface with investors without any intermediaries. We wanted the decentralized protocol to handle that entire relationship. And
now, let me relate this to something that was going on around the same time. Since, I think, like 2009, Patrick Byrne come on, I don't know, a dozen more times. We, you know, filing his lawsuits with the banking industry as they're doing the naked short thing on Overstock.com and all that kind of stuff. Well, he identified, there was down in Barbados, they had a bunch of the guys, you know, there were a bunch of Chris Horlacher type people sitting in a room, and they identify 160, 70 different industries that blockchain was going to totally disrupt. So he creates T0. he had to where you can do this tokenization and equity of companies, and they're on NASDAQ, okay? So at that time, he understood how this would cut out all this bleed that's going in this system. You know, they make a job for themselves, and you have to and you can't, and, oh, by the way, it costs you money for us to say that. So this is where you're coming in. What influence or knowledge did you have of what Patrick was doing, the NASDAQ thing, what he was offering with his T0 stuff, how compatible, what was, because you're going up against the same thing. And at that time, a young man with whatever grouping or resources that you had from Canada, I need to understand the regulatory, the they, them, those that we were up against at the time in that atmosphere. Try and get us, the timing of that and the competition and what Patrick was doing and you're doing. Did they compare at all? Was it the same thing both of you were up against? Try and give me the atmosphere.
Well, I actually did have discussions with Patrick's team, and so what we were building was actually not what Patrick was building.
You're pissing off the same people, though. That's what I was talking about.
We certainly were. We certainly were. But Patrick wanted to target exchanges, and I did not. I saw exchanges as users of my network. I didn't want to take exchanges out of the equation here, because I saw that they did actually a very important market function, which was matching and execution, which they would be able to do faster than any decentralized blockchain always. So I didn't want to necessarily toss them out of the market. What I did want to get rid of were two types of organizations in particular called depositories and transfer agents. And depositories and transfer agents are like the banks and clearinghouses of securities. And the brokers and the exchanges do not particularly like these two industries. They're seen as kind of like these, just these crappy service industries that you don't have any choice. You have to use them. There's nothing else. There's no alternatives. The regulators have kind of seen to that in sort of their soft way. And it costs them billions and billions and billions of dollars a year. And it's just a big money-sucking part of the industry that got installed back in the late 70s, early 80s, and has not really changed at all, because of course they're so protected that, and we all know this, any protected industry is never going to evolve. They have no incentive to improve because there's no competitive pressures. And with Bitcoin, I realized in 2010 that I could use that networking technology to completely overhaul that level of the financial institutional stack that exists, from brokers, exchanges, transfer agents, and then at the very core are the depositories. And so we were different from T0 in that regard, and it was a very big regard. And because of that, I think we were incredibly successful at getting brokers, institutional investors, exchanges, to get interested in our project. And I was having meetings with the heads of some very big stock exchanges, as well as some very big institutional investors. And collectively, we had an initial seed of users ready to go that handled trillions of dollars.
Okay, let me make a prediction right there. At that point, the infiltration started, okay? Here they come. No? That's not what happened?
That's not what happened.
Oh,
I thought maybe that might have been the case, but in our first interview, yes, I still had thought that might have been the case, but since then there's been some developments. I've positively ID'd the CSIS officer, the Canadian CIA officer, who spearheaded this whole thing. And I met him in 2010, years before I ever began. And so this was back in the days, again, where I'm, yay, Ron Paul, we need to do Ron Paul. We need to get him into the White Office in 2028. Oh, no, he didn't work. Okay, well, we're going to do it in 2012. And I'm online talking, debating libertarianism online with people. So I'm sure the Five Eyes are watching and maybe decided that this guy might be going places and we need to make sure he doesn't. So in 2010, just as I am beginning to speak about this idea I have for using Bitcoin to overhaul the securities industry, a man comes up to a booth I was at a conference, and I was at the booth for the Mises Institute. And he starts talking to me, and we strike up a friendship at this moment in time. And we hang out a lot since then, and he's encouraging me to start business ideas. Now, I didn't want to start the whole Equibit idea at this point. So we tried our hand at a social media app that used location from your phones to actually suggest connections. And so like if you're on your phone, you look at it, it scans the immediate area for people who are also on the app, and then you can start interacting with those people in progressive manners. And that app did not go anywhere. And so we shut that all down. But shortly after that, he kept pushing me for, let's start more businesses. And then at
pushing
that
you
point,
in what
around
way?
24
Was there money involved? What was the encouragement? He's just, here, have another beer and go kick ass. I'm behind you. Golf clap. I mean, what kind of encouragement?
He was a developer. He could write computer code. I needed developers to execute on my ideas because I had, technologically at a protocol level, I could hash these things out and work out the math. But I needed somebody to translate that into code, and he could. And
he's replaced by AI now, but whatever.
Yeah, maybe. But so he wanted to contribute to my ideas in that way. He's like, I'll code it. You have the ideas. I'll code it for you. Give me some equity, and etc. This is how we wanted to do things.
Okay, now I got a question right there.
Yeah.
Do you think that he had the skills and the time to do the coding himself, or was he going back to a home office and kind of we're working team, kind of look what I did? I mean, how involved were they?
This guy, at the time, I thought he led a pretty interesting life, but now looking back on it, I realize this was all a scam. This was all part of his persona that he put on. And so he told me that he didn't really work because he dropped out of university to start a company that he flipped, or buy a distressed company that he flipped and made a whole bunch of money on. And this is why he didn't have to work anymore, because that basically filled his retirement bag. And
okay, so you didn't know he was intelligence anymore at this time?
No, I didn't suspect. At this time, I suspected if I was going to do anything disruptive, that we would be faced with an adverse media campaign. I did not expect full-on Stasi-level Zersetzung, which is just position people in your life and have you completely surrounded at all times so that they can guide and direct the course of your entire life in ways that no longer threaten them or are no longer threatening to them. But I think they wanted me to make this technology because they saw the value in it. And he kept encouraging me. And in late 2014, early 2015, I finally decided, okay, let's do this. And we founded the company and got to work at his cajoling.
This is one, I make this observation. You see this a lot as you get older. They, them, those that won't leave us alone. Who are they, you conspiracy tinfoil hat wearer? The ones that won't leave me alone. There's just people who want to just be left alone. The ones won't leave me alone. This is not, won't leave you alone. So what I see is that they, them, those, and they're familiars that can walk out in the sunlight while the vampires are sitting back really controlling whatever, that they feed off of your capabilities. They're parasites. They encourage you to do it. One less thing you got to do, and they'll just manage it. And what do you need? And oh, by the way, here's a bomb to strap on or something. I mean, it's always this grooming of people to whatever their ends are. Mm-hmm. But they can't do it. Their mind is not that way. They're parasites. They look for the people that can and feed off of them. And you're a chicken McNugget box.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a Tolkien quote where he says, "Evil cannot create anything. It can only corrupt what good people have made."
Boom. So they're, getting the good people, getting Chris to make it. Go make it, man.
Go make it.
They were that stick going, do something again, do something more.
And yeah, we spent 4 years making it. I raised millions of dollars, was traveling the world talking about blockchain. We built an alliance with IBM. I was IBM's poster boy for blockchain technology. They flew me all over. They flew me all over North America to speak at IBM events. Big corporate people running banks, people running all kinds of financial and other kinds of institutions were coming to these big IBM events, and we were an IBM partner. We were going to build an enterprise system for issuance and treasury on the IBM cloud. It was going to be a product. And this was all going very well.
I got to inject here. I need to paint a picture, and I need your confirmation on it. Mm-hmm. This is like the Big Short kind of thing, all the machinations going on behind the scenes. My picture is that this guy, being tapped with the technological ability that he had of whatever, his job is to go out and identify people like you, and in his file cabinet, his desk at the intelligence of whatever the hell, he's got folders. Well, Chris Horlacher's got a folder, and it keeps getting fatter. And he's got other folders. There's some other, we need to keep track of it. Oh, but my Chris, they go, you know what? You just focus on Chris. We got you're getting some good out of this, and more of a budget, low budget. You made how much in your flipping of the? Here it is, put in your account, whatever. That those had a tether on you. That at least a inside got a camera over your shoulder of kind of know what's up with Chris, and that you were a key project. That they knew that they had a glimpse into and the possibilities and developing of what those can do. Because you may know Tim Pachote, he goes and speaks down at Narcapoco, like the Liberty Advisor and financial, whatever. When he started doing what you were doing, advocating for this and speaking about it, you're not allowed. You'll lose your license as a broker, this and that. And he eventually had to pay $17,000 to get out of the controls that they had on him so that he could offer, some solutions in crypto, whatever he was doing. Well, this is the reason is that you were he was developing, creating development for the common peoples out there to bypass the system. They're like, no. If you're going to bypass the system, we either need to be shoehorned into our system, or we control the system, or whatever. So the picture that I'm trying to paint here is that this is probably like you say, old German word meaning they're just going to disrupt, control, we rule you kind of thing. And it is a method by which they control the world, okay? And you were on that list, and this mechanism for getting out ahead of technology, for making sure that they, if you're not in control, you're out of control. So they needed you in control, or certainly surveilled. So do you think, I say that, and I need to know this now before you go to the next part. Do you think this was a method, a tactic, their modus operandi, their MO, this is how they do things, and that right now they're doing the same thing for whatever with AI, biotech, this is a tactic to keep those, and the structure to leave, whatever the hell it is, all their vampire familiars are out there doing this stuff in everything. Certainly that affects banking and trading and all that kind of stuff, because gazillions of dollars if I just passed a law. So what is your opinion on that now looking back? And we'll get into where this guy is now and so on. But you understand my point is that I need the young Chris's now, when you're 29, to understand if you're an outlier and you're doing this, man, if they don't control you, they want to. That's just the way they're thinking. How far off am I?
I think you're bang on, Ernie, and regardless of whether I fell onto their radar, in 2009 or 1999 or 1989, it seems as though what I experienced was a giant
grooming
scheme, some sort of scheme to extract my most valuable ideas for themselves and either entrap me into their service or utterly destroy me once they had sucked the value out of me. Because immediately after all of the core protocol, after I had solved all of the challenges, I guess, in terms of designing the protocol and all of the various transaction sequences and different kinds of smart contracts and things that we were building into the system. After I had finished all of the math for all of that and actually written it out, and gotten it to the point where a coder could then just take it and build it, that was when they struck. That was when the company was torn to shreds, and I was faced with an investigation and a full-on enforcement action by the Ontario Securities Commissions for doing the pre-sale that they told me to do, and I have them on tape telling me to do it. Which is
they told you to do. Who told you to do, and how did they tell you?
Well, so we were working away at the project, and we were at the point where we were now convinced, theoretically, that we would be able to build everything and it would work as advertised. So at that moment, we decided, okay, well, we've been doing this on a shoestring budget and $30,000 from an angel investor. It's time to step it up and let's do a real fundraise. And how do you do that for protocol development? Well, you do a pre-mine sale, and that's exactly what we did. We set aside 6% of the total mining generation algorithm. We set 6% aside for the pre-sale, and we started selling it. We went to the Ontario Securities Commission before we did any of this, and we asked them, do you consider the coin a security? And I mean, it's a fork of Bitcoin. We didn't anticipate they would, but they said, well, go talk to a lawyer about that. And like, you're a lawyer. I'm asking you. But they didn't want to say anything. Oh. But we had retained
because they hadn't decided yet. I went through this. They were, how are we going to classify this? We don't know yet, so we're not.
Yeah. Yeah, like, oh, we haven't considered it or whatever. But I'm like, well, all the other security regulators in the world have. They say it's not a security. We even managed to get actual letter, like a black and white letter, a determination from the Swiss securities regulator saying it was not a security. And so, the Ontario Securities Commission was like, we love what you're doing. Keep going. And then as soon as we start selling the coin, then the OSC leaps into action based on an anonymous tip. And we all know what that actually means, and we've got that in court records as well with the John Nuttall and Amanda Corrity case out in BC. CSIS came along and gave the RCMP an anonymous tip about these two individuals, and then the RCMP spent years in constructing this giant entrapment scheme for them. So this goes on. This is BC Supreme Court record stuff. This happens in Canada, folks. And so this is just, my story is just how they do it against a guy who's not in rehab trying to dry out from an opium addiction. This is how they do it when somebody is intelligent and serially successful at everything they set out to do. So
were there other contemporaries and peers that were going through the same thing? Because I remember when all this, it was like a shotgun attack on this kind of stuff. Is there others or are you just unique?
Well, our project was unique in the sense that the way we had positioned it, it was very targeted. We knew exactly who we wanted to disrupt and who we didn't want to disrupt and who our friends in the financial industry would be. And so I think we were navigating that challenge of introducing something to a marketplace very well, probably better than Pat Byrne was doing, because of the way they came after me, with all of these covert ops and just absolutely crazy, ridiculous stuff. But and the amount of time and effort they put into it, the manpower involved. I mean, they probably.
What end? What was their motivation? They were afraid of what? They wanted the what? Greed was what?
I think they wanted my ideas. They wanted my ideas because a lot of these ideas that we were working on at Equibit Group years later were reintroduced into the market by new companies.
Right.
Who then made very fast exits for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, you say they wanted. Who is they? Is it the government? Was it the industry?
Five Eyes.
So it was the intelligence community.
Yeah, I mean, the
But who the
intelligence
hell they
community
working for?
are behind most of the ICO scams.
Yeah,
These
for
are all-
who? Why? I mean, who are they representing?
Well,
Truth,
themselves.
justice, and the American way? I mean, what is it that they're doing?
Well, the Five Eyes are the shadow government. They are the government
Okay.
above all other governments. And
So
their
is it
sole
banking?
concern
Is it
to-
financial? Is it philosophical? They got little mal-read books in their back pocket. What's their motivation?
to continue to stay in power. They are our slave. They are the managerial class of this entire global slavery operation.
Boom. That's I got an answer. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
we need to know what and who and why we're dealing with. And you represented competition's a sin. Didn't you get the memo, boy? You know.
Yeah. So
got it. Go ahead.
the police, for the global order, the local police are kind of like, you know, your frontline slave enforcers. They're the guys on the horses going around on the plantation, whipping people and yelling at them and maybe putting a bullet in their heads every once in a while.
Okay, I got to mention this. Goes back because I'm old and remember. There was police and military against the New World Order by a guy, Officer Friendly. He was fired 5 times from the Phoenix Police Department because he wouldn't give up a database that he was sending, you know, this stuff to military officers and other law enforcement and that kind of stuff. He wrote like a pamphlet, essay on police. Oh, what was it? Vampire Killer 2000. You know, this was a big thing in the 90s and so on. And the main thing that he was saying, the reason he was called Officer Friendly is because after getting fired, he wouldn't give up the database. They put him without a vehicle, no motorcycle, no car, no partner, no backup in the hood in South Phoenix. They go, yeah, see how that works out, white boy? Well, of course, he's Officer Friendly. Go around and talk to the businesses, the gang members, and everybody. Hey, you know, Officer Friendly. Becomes internationally famous for being Officer Friendly. Well, the point that he was making, he goes, the police and military are going to be the tip of the spear for all this stuff that you're talking about, even though they don't know what the hell's going on, but you need to have the enforcers. And he goes, I'm not willing to do it, and I'm warning about it. That was his crime. So I just want to emphasize, this goes back, as at least as far as I know, 80s, 90s, in my personal experience. So there is something we're up against. Police and military against the New World Order, man. They ain't like that none too much. Just say it, okay? So I apologize. Continue.
Yeah. But yeah, so those are the frontline enforcers, and the Five Eyes act as sort of like they're the managerial class of the global order, and they gather the information, they develop the strategies, and they identify who the threats are going to be, but then also probably the opportunities, because aside from power, they also want money. And we were working on some very valuable technology. One of them in particular was a true hardware crypto wallet. And what we had done was we managed to get our hands on something called a hardware security module. And these are basically modern day Enigma machines. They're devices that do all of the encryption and decryption and digital signatures, key generation, all of that kind of stuff happens in hardware.
So like a Trezor kind of thing, memory key.
No, way beyond a Trezor. A Trezor is just a air-gapped computer. Everything is still happening in software. In a hardware security module, those operations are not taking place in software. they're taking place in specialized chips. So your private key is not ones and zeros in a file somewhere. It's actual transistors in a chip.
Damn.
So it's and the point being here is that it's basically impossible to extract the private key. You have to have physical possession of the device before you have any chance of doing that, and then you have to get past all of the physical deterrents, get inside this box, extract the chip, and then have your own machine sophisticated enough to just look at the individual transistors of this chip and figure out what that private key is.
Well, that'll take a couple hours.
Yeah,
Damn.
a little.
Shoot.
But these things have been in use by the military, by big financial institutions. Also, the internet is built on these machines, by the way. So like all those VeriSign, all your SSL certificates that you buy are signed by one of these machines owned by VeriSign or whatever company you're using. Whoever the certificate authority is owns one of these machines, and their private key is on it. You can't really do private key custody safely in a multi-user environment, which of course all businesses are. You can't really safely do that without one of these machines. And so that was going to be the enterprise wallet that our company was going to introduce. And in 2016, we demonstrated the proof of concepts. We got our hands on one of these machines, and we were the first team ever on the planet to attach a cryptocurrency wallet to it and make it work. When we did that in 2016, we had a partner of an absolute giant of a hosting company called Equinix. This was before we partnered with IBM and transformed this whole thing into a cloud-based product. But this was going to be how we were going to introduce this product. We were going to manage the hardware at our Equinix hosting facility and then do what's called cross connects, which is just an Ethernet patch cable from our cage to someone else's cage. And so it was going to be ultra secure, ultra fast. And Equinix has got thousands of financial institutions.
So it was a cloud, but it was your cloud and hardware that had
it was going to be our cloud instead of the
structure
IBM
of it
cloud.
doing the work. I get it. Okay.
Yeah, IBM offered us a much faster way of scaling this product out, so that's why we went that direction later. But we were the first team in the world to do a hardware, it was just called, a lot of people today, they call them HSM wallets. So you can just type that into your Google or your pre-search or whatever you like to use, HSM wallet, and you can see there's dozens of companies out there now that are pitching this exact product. One of them sold to PayPal for $300 million, which is twice more than double what I'm suing the government for, by the way. So one of the judges is like, well, I think you're asking for too much. And I'm like, really? Like a fraction of our technology just sold for more than double what I'm suing you for. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But now DTCC is introducing a blockchain-based securities registration system that looks an awful lot like what we were working on. Also like what Pat Byrne was working on with T0. Very dedicated, single exchange only blockchain registration system. Whereas ours was designed to work with any exchange, anywhere, all exchanges.
Well, let me get your overall view of what you were creating, what you demonstrated, and all of a sudden you become of great interest. Your file gets a lot bigger, and it gets moved to a guy with a bigger desk, okay? Mm-hmm. You were disrupting what portion of the market? Who was it the central banks, the central bank, branch banks, brokerage for Wall Street, New York Stock Exchange? I mean, what was the vibrant center of the threat that they did the analysis of you being their threat that you think was the focus of? Because when you get, like, they have the Silk Road, with Ulbricht, and all of a sudden they're finding out they can bypass, and Chucky Schumer gets up and go, we gonna get some. You have no idea. We're gonna get it and put you in jail for 3 life sentences. I saw this happen with Charlie Shrem. I see Eric Voorhees, has been onto it. Roger Ver, last time I interviewed him, 2 weeks later, they arrest him in Spain because of his hijacking Bitcoin book. There's targeting, and it is comes from something. What is that? What is the overall we rule you, who really runs the world, people that you believe is behind this, and for what reason?
This is still where I'm a little bit foggy, because, again, if they didn't want me to build this, if they felt threatened by it, why did they encourage me to do it? So I don't necessarily think it was because they were threatened by the tech. Because also I was very conscious of the fact that the traditional financial institutions are going to want to see some tools for compliance. And not only did I build those tools into the protocol, they would allow the issuers and the regulators to do the job of AML, KYC, and transparency and compliance and all of that stuff far better and far more efficiently than they presently were. And most of the people that saw that were like, wow, this is beautiful. You've done this so well, because no matter what compliance regime any country has, this will work with all of them.
Oh, maybe that was the problem. Maybe they wanted to hide their little payback Ukraine corruption, Israel money backdoor something, okay?
Well,
because what you were doing would have identified that. Am I correct?
Possibly, because anybody now, from the man on the street all the way to the guy in charge of the SEC, has exactly the same visibility. We all see the same thing. It's peer-to-peer.
Well, there's your problem right there. They don't want that. They want selective enforcement, competition's a sin, and we can hide what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, we know the political class thrives on insider trading, and insider trading happens because of information asymmetry, which a transparent marketplace would do a great deal more to get rid of. It wouldn't eliminate it entirely, because, of course, Equibit cannot see what you're saying in the corporate boardroom, but we would very quickly be able to see whether or not insiders are selling their securities or buying securities. This would be instantaneous. So maybe that's what they didn't like. Maybe they just saw an opportunity to just steal all of my ideas and profit from them on their own. Maybe it was an entrapment scheme designed to crush me and force me into their service, because there was no way in hell they would ever get me to voluntarily work for them at this point. Maybe it's all three. Maybe it's all three plus a few things that I don't even know yet.
Okay, the German word that you used for, they got a word for it, that they disrupt you, they go after, and so on. Is this a blanket thing over a threat to they, them, those in an industry, or do you think they're all of a sudden your file pops up and the punch card spits out of the machine and go get Chris? See, this is one thing that I'm afraid of. I'll give you an example. My sister does the 23andMe thing. She comes to me and she goes, oh, look, we have, our family. I go, wow, thanks. You did that for our family. I'm afraid some AI is going to go, yeah, that family, Ernie's got a little bit too much William Wallace in him and, freaking Hellfire missile. So I just, you don't want to be giving them all this data, and then, of course, all this stuff, your social security number, your DNA, it's all taken at birth anyway. And then, and it's available to they, them, those, and it got hacked, and it's gone and out, and all of a sudden now we go get Chris. So I'm looking at it at a much larger technocratic. They believe if they have enough information, they can control all of us. But who do they start with? The Chris Horlachers. The point that I'm trying to make as you're telling this story, and I keep interjecting, is that this is their modus operandi. This is how you control the chickens. Molyneux's thing of you get the kind of a free market out there being productive and the incentives of a meritocracy of it until it's not. And you're going through this and exposing this with your lawsuit against the very intelligence institutions that's doing it. And from the last time that we had you on, like 3.5 years ago, from that point to now, what difference, and I'm sure we'll get to it, but I'm wanting to know what difference there is in your perspective of what you're up against and why. I mean, you have questions then, now you think you got some answers.
Yeah, my perspective has morphed a bit from the communist New World Order theory that, what we're seeing in the world today is actually the Soviet Union 2.0. Communism won World War II, folks, and we should all.
Khrushchev saying we're going to kill you using your own system against you, and here we come.
Yeah, and Yuri Bezmenov, and we've been told this by the people doing it.
We got G. Edward Griffin on this afternoon. G. Edward is the guy did the long interview of that whistle-blowing KGB came and told us exactly what was going to happen and how they were going to do it.
Yeah, so it looks like this is a communist plot, but my perspective now is that the people at the very, very top of this, they don't give a shit about communism or capitalism or whatever ism it is that you've invested yourself into. All they care about is staying in power and staying rich. And that's it. Whatever system of thought that they need to pump into the heads of the masses at any given moment throughout history that is going to maintain their power and maintain their money is the system that you're going to have crammed into your head from your public school, from the mainstream media, and they will create various systems that oppose each other just so that, and this is divide and conquer. But the people at the very top of this, they do not have a national conscience. They have a planetary conscience. They don't, nation states and governments and presidents and kings and popes, these people are all disposable. They're all actors, and these are all systems that they have created over the many thousands of years that they've been in power. And, some of them have grown very big, like the Catholic Church, or the American government, or the government of the United Kingdom. But these are all temporary, disposable systems of control that have been created. And at the moment, we are going through some sort of transition.
And I tell you what they don't want. They don't want this. They don't want this self-ownership thing going. When we had it translated into Arabic on Tahrir Square, not Tahrir Square. Yeah, was it Tahrir Square? Yeah, I was thinking Tiananmen. But Tahrir Square in Cairo, we shipped thousands of the DVD in their language to Alexandria, and it was put in, and Cato gave us some printed material that, whatever. So we go in, do this. It ignited all across the Arab states. The Liberty International is going, what the hell did you do? We paid $1,000 to some guy in Moscow to translate it into Arabic. When we dumped this, they freaked. I mean, we're getting DDoS and Mossad out of Germany. We tracked down to what? Oh, my God. Why? Because this is the enemy to that. They need this collective thinking. They need, you got to have government. They need the narrative and the story that you can vote yourself free. I mean, we know. I'm telling you, man, I've been doing this a long time, and you can see the patterns, and that's what I want to get from you eventually. We're getting there. We got time. We're chilling. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that you have to have a realization. You have to go, man, what the hell? Who are they then? What do you say you do here, government? I mean, what is it? It's for life, liberty, property, protect and serve. They stripped that off the cars. I mean, what is it that we have a government for? The Declaration of Independence made it really clear. The purpose you even have one, to even think about it, is for the protection of the individual rights of the people. If you don't do that, it's time to alter or abolish. It's your right. It's your duty. Boom! Sign me up. Well, here's Chris doing that very thing in detail, in documented, his case, in discovery, in all, and the revealing of this. It's 3.5 years later. How different is your perspective on government in general, centralized power, and what the goal is of they, them, those? Yeah. We are livestock to be sheared and ultimately harvested. And who do they want to pick first? What can they get the most out of in the matrix? And we got a plug in everybody's head. We're going to get us some Chris. Woo! We got to get some Chris.
There's a big, fat, juicy one right there.
Yeah, juicy. Oh, man, so that perspective and, the difference between 3.5 years ago to now, what percentage of altering of your focus or your realization has come about? 90% of what I thought was going on before isn't even so. That's not their motivation. So kind of,
I'd say it's probably a 40 to 50% reorganization from sort of the Ron Paul revolution, libertarian anarchist to where I am at this particular moment. I mean, still, they, them, those, they got to go. But who they, them, those are and why they're doing what they're doing and to what ends and how they got there to begin with, that whole backstory has been completely overhauled. And I actually even published a book about it right here. It's called The Apocalypse of Yajnavalkya. And this is a syncretic work that blends together multiple disciplines of science and occultism and esotericism and religion and history, and it weaves them all together in this completely coherent narrative that is going to pull the rug out from under everything you believe about the history of the human race on this planet. It's, reading the manuscript for the first time, threw me for a loop just as hard as discovering libertarianism and Austrian economics did to me the first time. It took me weeks to recover from what was in this book. That is now, I prettied up and packaged for everybody to now just buy off of Amazon for $25 and have it delivered the next day, or just read off of your Kindle.
But we have it here on today's archive. It's 2026, May 13th show with Chris Horlacher, and you have access to, Donna put up here the summary and the access to the book and getting they, them, those exposed. But what this did is it demonstrated to you that these discussions, this philosophy, this realization, it's like reading The Prince by Machiavelli or The Art of War by Sun Tzu, or this kind. This has been going on for freaking ever. There's sovereigns. You go in the Bible. Who are the sociopaths? Who are the bad guys? The collectivists. And who are the victims? The people, because they can.
The New World Order is the Old World Order 2.0.
Right, or 16.7.
It's not, the communists aren't taking over America. The people in charge of the world have pretty much always been in charge, whether it's capitalism or communism or whatever ism you are allowed to have in your country. These were all test cases. They were using us to figure out which method of governance produces the best results for them. And then they are going to deploy that over the entire planet. And we are about at that moment where that is going to happen, where we're going to have a one world government running the world the way they figured out over the last century is the best way. Are we going to do capitalism or communism or fascism or some other ism? Which one?
But they have to give you the illusion of choice.
That's it. And they needed to figure out which was the best way. Is that socialism? Is it fascism? Is it communism? which illusion are these animals most likely to buy?
Get your ism right here. Step right up and get your ism. Well, what if we don't want an ism? I'm good.
Yeah. We don't want an ism. We just want to be. We don't need an ism.
Wow, we're learning a lot from this. I'm glad we're able to take the time here, because it's revealing, and it was revealing. This process is revealing to you, I'm sure. As your press, because I did the same thing. I mean, it was election law. How did they get? It was economics. The Omnibus Trade Competitiveness Act of '88. My father's guy again. I'm like, how the hell did they get away with this stuff? It was general public opinion. It was how they could craft you into begging for more government and control and fix, and the man's bad, and get the corporation, and here's some tax money to save me. We got to fight a war for whatever reason. And I'm just, this was a revelation to me that you need to uncover the secrets and expose the lies. But it was a mechanism for enslavement. All of it is. It's any government. You're delegating authority to someone else to fix it or run it for you. So as you go through this process, hey, I can serve the broker. I can serve this. I can bring in these guys. The regulator will be all kinds of. Have you changed in that? Have you gotten to where, man, I don't have nothing to do with the guy. Screw them. We're going to do peer-to-peer software. Bite me. I mean, where's your mindset on the technological integration into a free market now? What are you still trying to comply, trying to find a niche, or are you just, man, I ban the whole freaking system because the system's there to squash our humanity? Where are you evolving in this process?
Well, all of government is built on the premise that violence and threats will solve social problems. And I don't know if you or I or anybody can actually accept that premise, but it's there. And if you believe in government, you apodictically have accepted that you can solve social problems with threats and violence.
Boom.
And you can't. All you do is shift injury from one party to another party, and that's if you're doing it good. Otherwise, you're just going to just smash everything. You're just a bull in a china shop. And growing up around lawyers, like, you really, really get to know that mindset, because for a lawyer, utopia is only one piece of legislation away.
Right. One more department of government.
Yeah. So, and they really believe that. And you look at politicians, and you ask a politician, what are they most proud of? And it's always, we passed this piece of legislation or that piece of legislation. And so a politician's job is there just not to stop bad legislation from being passed, but to just pass more legislation. They just don't seem to think of that other course of action as being inherently good, or you could actually accomplish things by getting rid of bad laws. No. We have to pass new laws, because that, I guess, repealing laws is an admission is admitting that we fucked up. We thought of we didn't think this through, and our predecessors, or even me, because some of these guys are now in there for an entire lifetime, like 40, 50 years, a sitting politician, which is insane. The measure of their own self-worth is just how many more pieces of legislation have we passed? How many did I get through this year? And nobody benefits from that. Nobody. At least nobody who matters in this world actually matters. So
this is I'm really glad that we're able to take the time on this and get the nuance of what's going on, because it's happening all over all the time with a lot of people, certainly in influential positions and a mindset and a mind such as yours that expose what's really going on. And I'm wondering what do you say your mission is? sons of bitches got to die, got to go to jail, got to be held accountable, or just an exposing of the system for its understanding. I had a guy on early in the crypto days, it's around 13, around in there, 14 something, and they kept, we're covering this, since 09. I mean, we come out of the Lovolution and we're doing silver dime cards and everything. We're pushing silver right when crypto kind of started. So we're doing both, for the same promise. Decentralization, security, no third-party risk, cheap transactions, that kind of thing. Well, you come to find out they keep chipping at each one of those in crypto, but precious metals kind of holds up on that, as long as you're using it. So I see the evolution of this going in the minds of the people, peer to peer. The mechanism by which we can have truly, and you have demonstrated there's technology that you can have this kind of peer-to-peer unsurveilled, in the hardware stack of, let them do their thing, but, we can still provide that you can't stop the transaction, or could you? Your stack that you had, and somebody does a transfer, uses an exchange, or wants to tokenize whatever and sell it to the next broker, did it give them the capability to deny a transaction, to retroactively undo it?
No.
I need to know what tools they were taking your technology and they had a plan for.
Well, I mean, this kind of speaks to an institutional laziness that we're seeing in law enforcement. Law enforcement doesn't want to go out, investigate crimes, catch criminals, charge, convict, and incarcerate them. They don't want to do that. They want
to get paid for pushing a button.
Yeah, they just want to sit at their desk and push a button, or put guardrails up in society that are so solid and so strictly enforced that you couldn't commit a crime even if you wanted to. And I mean, that's not good, because everybody's going to feel that heavy blanket of control on them, whether they're criminally minded or not. That is literally a prison camp at that point. But that seems to be where they're taking society, as into a digital prison camp. And we all know this. Everybody knows this on some level, even subconsciously. Like, just look at the explosion of mental illness in not just America, but worldwide. Yeah. We're seeing anxiety, depression, maladaptive behaviors. These are signs of animals in captivity, folks. That's what
they just need. A little bit of Soma and you'll be okay. Brave New World.
Just go for your ketamine. Just go for your ketamine retreat, and so all of it's a Brave New World, folks. They're introducing drugs so that you don't feel the enslavement anymore.
And in Canada, if you got too much anxiety, you got a kill yourself program.
Yeah, and if that doesn't work, well, hey, you want to die? We'll just kill you. That's fine.
Wow, this is, okay. Go ahead and tell us. We'll just focus on your litigation. You file suit against whom for what? Where that is now?
2 suits.
What is the future?
So this whole scheme looked like it played out in 2 phases. First, there was the Ontario Securities Commission assault phase, which failed. So because they could not entrap me with a Securities Act violation, then they shifted to phase 2, which was just destroy the company, destroy Chris. And that took the form of some of my partners looting the company and then starting a smear campaign over social media saying that I had embezzled company funds and bought houses and yachts and went on, these lavish vacations and trips, and was just, they wanted to paint me like the typical ICO scammer. And so I responded with 2 lawsuits, one against CSIS for what they did with the OSC, Canadian, and the other against the group of people who looted the company and started the smear campaign. Now, I suspected at the time that these two events were related. I now know that they 100% are. So two lawsuits were filed, and the defendants in the CSIS lawsuit, which included one of the informants that they had flipped by name. I named him Sergei Sakov. He was the lead developer of the core code. And two John Does who were the CSIS officers that he said met with him and told him he needed to go to Russia to divest himself of an interest in a Russian company that he had started. And then also they had apparently threatened his naturalization process, which CSIS can do. CSIS can write a letter to the immigration minister and say, you should not give this person a citizenship. And more likely than not, that person is going to have their citizenship application denied. Right. So they threatened his naturalization. They forced him to go to Russia. He does all these things. Then he comes back and he's like, oh, yeah, sorry for that 2-week unexplained absence. Can I get a promotion to the inner circle of the company? And so, I mean, you just recruited the worst spy in the world. He gave it all away on day one. And how
old was
he? He's named in the suit. CSIS is named in the suit. And
how old was this guy?
He was in his early 40s, I believe, at the time. So he's in his late 40s now.
You have a family, kids. They kind of,
wife and daughter.
Leverage on
wife
them.
And daughter. Nice, intelligence community paid for home now that he's living in Mississauga. So they've taken care of him. Where's
Mississauga?
Well, Mississauga is next door to Toronto. This all happened in the Toronto region of Ontario. And so sued him, but he ignores the lawsuit completely, doesn't file a defense. We served it on the government, and the government the government ignored it as well. Sorry. And now you get 20 days to file a defense. The government doesn't file. Sergei doesn't file. A couple of months after they were supposed to file the defense, the government files what's called a notice of intent to defend, which, had it been filed on time, would get you an extra 10 days. But you're late, government. And
default judgment, you lose, you didn't apply, done.
Well, that's what I wanted to do with the government, right. But I was told by my lawyers, you can't. The court will not allow you to note the government in default ever. So right away, this is a massive constitutional violation because we don't have a fair trial here. The rules of the court is not going to apply the rules of civil procedure to the government. And you just told me that's your standard operating procedure. Like, what? So we don't have a fair and independent judiciary in Canada at all. But so never mind the government, though. Let's go to Sergei, because his antics are just absolutely spectacular. So Sergei completely ignores the lawsuit that he gets served with. And we do note him in default. And then we do move to convict him in default. And all the while, he's getting served with more and more and more legal papers, at least 3 times. We get him convicted. He's convicted, and he's charged by the court. We have an order for $1.7 million, not chump change. And so this all happens right before our interview in January 2023, Ernie. And so we did an asset search and located at least the government knows this guy owns. And all it was a bank account with a little over $430,000 in it, which is stupefying. I mean, who has that much money just sitting in a bank account? Like, this is Canada. I know how things go in Canada. As soon as you get some money in a bank account, your banker is calling you every week saying you need to buy a GIC, you need to buy a mutual fund, you need a tax-free savings account, an RRSP, and these are like IRAs or the registered accounts that you have, retirement accounts in the States.
That was his petty cash.
Yeah, it's just a pile of cash sitting in a bank account. Now, either you are the world's worst family financial planner, or that's not your money, Sergey. Because the moment we seized it, he immediately lawyers up and leaps into action. And we see the court.
So you were able to seize it with the court order of a settlement of there's the money and gimme, and they gave it to you.
Yeah, we seized it. It went into the sheriff's account. And so it was ours at this point. We were holding on to it, and he lawyers up. And then he finally starts trying to file a defense. But of course, you were convicted in default, Sergey, so you can't overturn this without a damn good reason for not showing up. And he muddles through multiple reasons. The first reason was, oh, I thought it was fake because there's a lot of scams in crypto, which is not an acceptable excuse. It's never been an acceptable excuse.
Well, not the one that the court's going to accept. I mean,
ever. No. But, and it's not like people have never tried that argument before. But this time, the judge agrees and says, yes, this is reasonable, even though you didn't call the lawyers who were suing you, whose names and emails and phone numbers are all over the documents that are being served with you. You never looked up their company. You never called them. You never called the guy who was suing you, who you did know was a real person. Like, he's met me. We've been in the same room together. Like, you were my first employee. Never did that. Never went to his own lawyers. Never called the courthouse to see if this was actually a lawsuit that's on file. He did nothing. He didn't do anything to confirm his suspicion that this was fake. Judge is like, this is fine. This is fine because there is a lot of fraud going on in the crypto industry, and Chris agreed with that. Now, this is where the judge flat out lied, because in the discovery transcript, they asked me this. Sergey's lawyer asked me this, and he's like, "Oh, don't you think there's a lot of fraud going on in crypto?" And my answer was the opposite. I said, no more than any other industry. And I'm right. I can give you all kinds of analysis reports that show that there's far less fraud going on in the crypto industry than there is in typical financial industries sectors, like credit cards. There's more credit card fraud in a single year than there's been since Bitcoin was invented. All of crypto fraud since Bitcoin was invented do not add up to a single year of credit card fraud. Got it. But so the judge deliberately lied in her own ruling, overturning Sergey's default conviction. So now he gets his money back, and this whole thing opens up again. Sergey's allowed to file his defense. He files it. We completely pick it apart because it's full of lies. It's full of stuff that he can't support. We even got him in discovery to recant most of his defense. So what's left, what he didn't recant, we could prove was a lie. And so he's in deep, deep, deep shit.
Is he really?
Well, I mean, yeah, if this is a normal trial, he would not be allowed
There's
to
normal
testify.
Trials? I mean,
Yeah,
come
well,
on, you
yeah.
got to come to a realization by this time, Chris. I mean,
Sure. I know at this point that the entire court system is rogue. And so if I'm going to win, I'm going to have to be the one writing the script for this entire thing. And I have been. I've been doing all sorts of things. You ran an entrapment op on me, and I've ran an entrapment op right back on you guys. And what I have been able to get them to just give me through, in conversation, I'll play dumb, and they'll say something, or I'll do something to piss them off and say something that they shouldn't have said, or I'll build my own honeypots and entrapment schemes that they fall straight into within 24 hours or less.
Because it's the type of people that they are.
Well, they are arrogant, Ernie, and they don't think that there could ever be somebody smarter, more capable than they are. And you thought wrong, guys. I have you dead to rights. I'm about to file a factum, which is going to be over 1,000 pages long with all of that evidence you just gave me that proves beyond a reasonable doubt that you have subjected me to Zersetzung or gang stalking or whatever word you want to use for it for over a decade. And I can forensically prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
One, I'm like, you can, so what? They control and they can do whatever the hell they want. But, it's a general public opinion thing. You use the court system for documenting. You do discovery or enter evidence in, and hopefully it gets in. You go, see, there forever and always it's documented that, and you did, and you're a bad guy. And I'm, you telling us this now, is that wise? I mean, they're already got a line of bureaucrats to prevent from you're not allowed and you're not going to enter it? Or is it already done? It's packaged?
Well,
it's right.
The federal government cannot defend themselves against me. They never entered a real...
they don't care. I mean, you haven't got to that conclusion yet. I mean,
well, we haven't. I mean, that isn't the conclusion, though. The conclusion is not. They think that they need to beat me in court, and they've already lost in court. They haven't figured out that they're playing a game for their own survival at this point. Because if they don't engage me in court, I will destroy the entire government, or rather, I will make them do it, because that has been the strategy I've executed upon them now, and there's no turning back now.
Okay, now they know this. You're not like revealing something super secret on this show, and all the crypto guys they always keep getting arrested or something stupid. They stay here. I'm just saying.
I've said it enough times to my lawyers and to other people. I can't imagine that they haven't been listening at this point. But if they haven't, I hope they're listening now, because you have. All right,
good. I just want to make sure you know that. I mean, I get subpoenaed to go to the January 6th, and they fly me to Washington to sit there and challenge me, and we need you to certify the file. No, Fifth Amendment. And they take me all the way to Washington. Christmas time, and I just, not playing, but damn it, you can go home. But I'm telling you, they listen to the show. And I go, yeah, you can just you can listen to it. It's on IPFS, you can't stop it here. Oh, we've listened to it. We just need you to certify it so we can use it to beat Chris over the head with. I'm sorry, man. I make this point because, I rattle off all the guys in your position to get in trouble because I provide a safe and encouraging environment for you to spill your guts. And they go, thank you, Ernie. So I just want to make sure when you're doing your detailing here, you want it to get out.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I do. I actually, the
break
time
news,
is
man.
now.
Tell me all the stuff that you did and you caught them with their pants down doing whatever the hell. Go.
Well, that's it. So, I mean, I have executed a massive strategy against the Canadian government and the Attorney General over the course of this lawsuit. And so one of those things I had to do was I realized very early on that they were going to try to surveil me, and they were going to do it in their Five Eyes way. They're going to use secret warrants. So one of and I cannot detect a secret warrant from my end of the tech stack. So I left Canada. I took away your most powerful weapon. And all I had to do was leave. I was planning on leaving anyway, but you
really
made that
was that simple?
Yeah, you made that decision for me because your warrants do not work in Mexico.
As far as you know.
These guys think they're so tough. They think they're so tough. And I have been hopefully teaching them how easy it is for a single smart and capable individual like myself to have you running around in circles and tying you up in knots, all the while you're dumping all kinds of evidence that I am dutifully collecting at every step of the way. And at this point now, I have collected such a mountain of evidence against them that proves forensically beyond a reasonable doubt. And I don't even have to get to that level. This is a civil case. I only need to demonstrate that there's a preponderance of evidence out there that what I'm saying you did. But now I cannot. Now not only can I do that, I can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Okay, you got this hash on IPFS of they take you out. It's there forever and always, and they can't. And somebody has and dead man switches. I mean, come on, you know.
So, yeah,
you're scaring me.
Well, I mean, my strategy has been, come at me, please.
All right.
Try everything in your arsenal. I am ready for you. I've already identified far more CSIS officers or intel officers in my life that I am going to name. And this isn't a passive suspicion of mine. This is verified with evidence.
No, I'm sure that makes it even more dangerous. So when does this get part of the case?
Well, it's slowly coming out. I've recently launched a website called equibitlawsuit.com, and you can go there, and this is where I'm going to be progressively making my disclosures. And I sent a letter to the Attorney General of Canada, and I said, you're absolutely fucked. You messed with the wrong guy, and I have been subjecting you to a forensic investigation. And I've been doing so this entire time, by the way. You didn't break my firewall. I let you in. And all my
the spider to the fly. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. I let you in, and all of my camera rolls, all my cameras have been rolling. And I've been collecting evidence. And I've got some real freaking doozies. One of them I just published on the website. I have proof that a state-level hacker was messing with my router in Mexico multiple times. Now...
Well, I thought you went to Mexico. They're not able to do that. What are you talking about?
Well, no. They had to because they couldn't serve the Mexican telecommunications company with a warrant. They had to hack my router the way a normal hacker would, which is a way I can detect.
Okay.
So... you're playing my game now, guys, and you don't realize how far ahead I am of you. Or maybe you do, and you actually...
Well, they're so predictable. I'm with you.
Well, again, yes. We're dealing with really, really, really stuck-up narcissists and high-functioning sociopaths. And these people fit the profile of a corporate fraudster, and I'm trained in hunting down, trapping, and destroying corporate fraudsters. So I'm using all of my tools and investigatory techniques that I learned working for 6 years at the world's largest auditor company. My clients were older than the country you serve. Guys.
So you're the guy that does it, you know, and you're going to know how they do it. We're going to do it. You know, that was one thing. That's my train of thought. You know, I wanted to share this. There was about 13 or so. I can't remember. It was a guy that had a company called Dark Data Services. And he goes, I got to let the Liberty community know what's up. I need to come on the show. Get your butt on. Let's do it. And that's what he said. Everybody keeps thinking, they keep going on about how anonymous crypto is. You know, it's anonymous. And he goes, that's bullshit. I'm tracking you guys down to your device. I do it for corporations. I do it for law enforcement. And you need to know you're not as private as you think you are. You're arrogant. Oh, they said, you know, on the internet, you know, whatever. So he goes, I am able to track each transaction down to the device. I want you to know that. So then you go in and I start challenging people. You keep saying this is anonymous. You know, Andreas Antonopoulos, you know, I get Bezos, all these guys, you know, come on, the maximalists and everything. I say, hey, you know, is it anonymous? I mean, define anonymous and what, you know. Well, it's pseudo-anonymous. Pseudo-anonymous? What the hell does that mean? I got to look up the word pseudo. Pseudo means not. I'm like, what the shit? You know? You guys... So I want people to understand that what is going on now is a battle of philosophy and control. It's always about control. And your investigations and you encouraging them where they have to come after your servers, and you can track where it came from, who was doing it, and how. What do you say you're doing here? And you're entering that into what end? For exposing them, they're violating some court or law. They're what? Why? And is this to your advantage that you're tracking them doing this?
We're in the negotiation phase, I think, but the Attorney General doesn't realize it yet. But this is how I negotiate with criminals. And so I give you the opportunity to do the right thing. And if you don't, I take a little bit of weight and I put it on top of you. And then I ask you again, how does that feel? You ready to settle yet? Okay, have some more. And we're going to keep doing this until I get paid or there's no government of Canada left, at least nothing that anybody is going to recognize or want to be obedient to. And I'm going to make you destroy it. I've already made you destroy the rules of civil procedure in Ontario. The entire civil law, the rules of civil procedure is gone in Ontario because of them, because what I made you do. You were so desperate to try and draw this fight out, thinking I did not have the endurance to stick this through. And in the process, you destroyed most of the Ontario justice system. So, bravo.
Yeah,
you're playing my game now, guys. You will pay me or I will make you destroy the entire country.
So is that your goal? I mean, you're willing to sign the NDA, the sealed document, kind of whatever, but I'm getting mine, you sons of bitches. And undisclosed settlement of Chris is happy. I mean, that's what you're going for?
You broke it, you bought it, guys. And if you and I put it right in there in the offer letter, Mr. Attorney General, if you want that NDA, I'll sign it, but it's double.
Okay. How much are we talking here? What was it, 120 million or something, or what was it?
Yeah, so we're looking at $250 million, and that's chump change because if I update my damages assessment to today, because my damage assessment says, okay, well, had we launched the Equibit network and operated it the way we intended to, based on these benchmarks, this is what the company's stack of Equibits would be worth. And so since I filed this lawsuit, the crypto market has tripled or quadrupled. And so my benchmark cryptos, one of them is Ravencoin, which was another project of Pat Burns, which is almost identical to Equibit.
I have some Ravencoin for the very reasons that you guys created it.
Yeah. So these benchmark cryptos now, now they don't justify a $120 million lawsuit. They justify a $750 million lawsuit. So if I ask you for $250 million and you get an NDA out of me, that's a fucking bargain, Mr. Attorney General. And I suggest you tell your superiors to sign.
The future is about, I keep saying this, certainly, a lot last decade or so. The future is about credibility. It's always the narrative, and whose narrative do you believe? Why do you believe it? Because you want to, because it's the truth, because whatever. The future is about credibility. And it was always, like Project Mockingbird, we control the anchors, they say this about that, and Walter Cronkite said it, so it must be true kind of crap. Mm-hmm. Well, their credibility has been so eroded that they're going to have to, reconstitute some new government ideology, whatever. We got a great reset. Yeah, it's a new world government. You own nothing, and here's your happy shot. It's something else. The credibility angle is going to mean something to them until it doesn't. And when it doesn't is when they don't give a crap. and we're got a gun. So
everything hinges on credibility with the government. If you don't think they're an authority, then they've lost everything.
Tiny dots.
And they're so desperate to maintain it. And that is what is at stake, Mr. Attorney General. And I told you that in the final paragraph of my offer letter, of my settlement offer to you. I told you, stop this before your credibility is in ruins. And believe me, I can ruin it.
Well, we're looking for the entertainment, of that. Now, you just did a show also with Dan Dix. He's Canadian. He knows they're bad guys being bad. And, I don't know how long this was. We had it up on Freedom's Phoenix. We do it, and I just been so busy doing the MC thing for the Nonconformist series, Narcapoco deal we just finished last night. And I'm like, I got to, when I do these projects, it takes like a week or so. I got a bunch of catching up to do. Summarize why people should go and watch this interview you did with Dan. Being a Canadian, he understands the system. They're bad guys. What was his focus, and why should people go watch that?
Yeah, well, Dan was the first journalist and the only Canadian journalist to touch this story. And so, if for no other reason than this is your opportunity to see actual journalism in action from a Canadian, definitely go watch that. Watch the first one. That's also linked to in that. And the update is going to bring you up to speed right up until kind of what you and I are talking about just now, that since the default conviction of Sergei, that the government has crippled their justice system just to get his leg of the lawsuit reopened. So we have to just repeat the last 2 years of prosecuting Sergei. And okay, I'm fine. Let's do it. Yeah, this is gonna work out even worse for you, because now he's perjured himself, and we can prove it. So
okay, yeah, I've been okay. This has been my experience. I've gone and been oral argument before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals myself. I've had 3 Arizona Supreme Court cases I file and argue. I've got over a dozen federal and state cases, because exactly like you, from without resources. So I do the former pauperous, I was like, oh, I'm poor, I can't even afford the filing fee, and I want to beat the crap out of you. The problem is that immediately I understood that, they're going to get their ass kicked and they did it wrong and I got them right here and everything. Very early on, I realized that don't freaking matter. They do whatever the hell they want. But where I got the most movement was general public opinion. It was highlighting it. And they always want to drag it out. They want to build up your attorney fees. They want to inconvenience your life. They want to harass you. And it seems like you were kind of the mind that I was. You drag it out as long as you want. That's just more news coverage I get. Every time I get a new government number or filing or plead, or I get a newspaper article, a TV show, whatever, and then here comes the internet. Mm-hmm. So I was like, you could drag this shit out as long as you want, because, man, I got something for you. It seems like that might be your tactic. So is it?
Yeah. Well, they've been trying to shut the lawsuit down by dragging it out and attacking my sources of revenue. So right. At the moment, I am under a all-out financial assault. My 2 companies have been debanked, and my clients one of my clients got debanked as well. All like within months of each other. So I've been debanked. One of my major clients got debanked by one bank. Another bank is probably in the process of just constructing a reason to debank them, because I know how this works. I can see the steps immediately when they're trying to manufacture a file that they can say, oh, well, you didn't answer this question or this question, so we're going to debank you. So this is all happening right now. Like, I am under assault. My sources of financing are being attacked, and they seem to think that if they can ruin me, ruin my companies, and prevent me from getting any sort of income, then that will die. So this is another reason why I launched the website, because I'm reaching out to the world now. Please, please, please make sure that I have the money to carry this lawsuit to completion. So, there's a Bitcoin address, a Monero address, and a link to a GoFundMe campaign. And so,
where's the link to the GoFundMe? Support us. There.
Support us. And I've got the QR codes and the link to the GoFundMe page right there.
Boom. Okay.
Boom. So, I mean, Bitcoin and GoFundMe, the Attorney General can see. And so, like, if somebody wants to, like, just flood those two donation mediums with money, then the Attorney General is going to see that. It'll get big enough. Eventually, they'll be like, well, fuck it. We have to settle this guy. There's no way we can ever take away all of this money, because he's just going to throw it in his lawyer's trust account, and they can sue us for the next decade if he wants to. So that's kind of where I would like to get those campaigns, because this is all about, they want to control my options. Fine. I'm going to control your options too. And you're up against
I'm ready to give you some Monero, but it goes to a Coinami exchange.
Yeah, you could do that too. I mean,
no, I need that freaking, man. I just need the hash of the whatever, man.
Yeah, so we can do this with not a huge. I mean, this isn't like, I'm not looking for like millions of dollars. Where I've already carried this case.
It's the principle. Like, screw them.
It's just the principle. Like, yeah, fuck these people. If you want to punch back, here's the button.
There you go.
Here's the button. I'm beating the shit out of these people. And the more money I have behind me, the longer I can do it. And the more colorful ways I can do it. So, it's been I won't lie. Like, I mean, it has its fun moments, but I have really spent the last 6 years really just fighting for my life and the life of my family. And that takes a lot out of you. I'm working my ass off just to send money to the lawyers and keep food on the table. So I would like a vacation eventually.
No, man, I'm with you, brother. I've been doing this 40 whatever years, and it started with this kind of crap, and you can't not do it, because you can't live with yourself. I mean, you with great ability comes great responsibility. And I don't want to win in court, because they're going to file the appeals. It's going to go all the way up to the Supreme Court, and just look what they're doing with the truckers. They're just going to do the same thing, because we're talking about complete narcissists who can never admit that they were wrong, let alone defeated. So, what do you mean, the trucker convoy contributions and so on and all that?
No. So there's a class action lawsuit going on against the Canadian government for declaring martial law. And they beat the government in the court. The court said, yes, you invoked this illegally, and now these truckers are owed compensation. And this was upheld on appeal. And now it's going before the Supreme. Now it's going up to the Supreme Court, where most of the judges were put there by Trudeau. So we're going to see what happens there. But I mean, this is just, you're fighting a money printer. So yeah, if they can pay for the next step, they're just going to pay for the next step. So I want them to settle. But that means we get to conduct our own campaign of terror against the Canadian government and force them to settle. Because here comes the internet. You said it, Ernie. And this is the moment. Because I tried to take this public a few years ago, but was faced with so much suppression that, and again, this is just more documentation. Actually, I've been able to document the suppression. Email platforms, don't use SendX, folks. SendX is fake. If they don't want you to send your email campaign, they won't, and they'll feed you bogus campaign data to make you think they did. And yes, this happened to me. They did that to me, and I can prove it forensically. So I was using SendX to mass email my list to thousands of journalists across North America, and they weren't actually sending the emails. But they gave me bogus campaign data to make me think that I had sent it.
And they give you real money back?
No, but they went in later and tried to delete the campaign data, and I caught them red-handed.
Wow, man! All of this it comes to the point. I'm like, man, are you getting it? Did you get the message? Are you getting the memo? I mean, you can't count on a governmental system there that under the guise of protecting your individual rights, service to humanity, we're the good guys, blah, 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 and you find out the shiny badgers, are put in place of authority because they are sociopaths. They don't have empathy, compassion, or even doing their freaking job. That's the kind of people they put there. Yeah. And you're finding that, you're demonstrating it, you're showing the credibility or lack thereof of these guys. To what end? This is, I give you an example and you understand, answer kind of how I want to pick your brain. In 2009, well, first, I'm an activist. I get my first email account, 92. It was, during the Ross Perot kind of stuff. Everybody's like, oh, you got to see this guy, look at, whatever. And I was in the middle of my lawsuit, 44 election laws I'm challenging. Perot couldn't even get on. It was an impossibility for him to get on the ballot for president in Arizona. They had to change some laws that we highlighted in our suit, so I speak around whatever. So during this process, you're seeing how corrupt the system is at its foundation. How do they get away with this stuff? Election law. You may choose from communist candidate A or fascist candidate B. You don't get another choice, and in the end, no matter who you vote for, the government wins. Okay, so we go down that road. As time went on, it became very, very obvious that the entire system was set to protect the system. Continuation of government thing, bunkers for all the guys and their lobbyists. Everybody's got an Israeli lobbyist, mini-me walking around with all the congressmen, Massey's telling you how it works, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you're a lying sack of snot, I'm a traitor, what, I'm out. All this has, a life. That's why they call it revolution. It keeps coming around. We're going through the fourth turning now. We're getting the internet where we have this information archived. People can access this stuff to understand and not have to realize how screwed it up it is again. I mean, we know. Well, this afternoon we have G. Edward Griffin on. Well, he hasn't, detailed what's going on. So he doesn't call, a government is that we need. He calls it a protectorate. The whole point to even have these guys was protection of rights. They don't do that. What the hell do you say you do here? So I'm
Griffin, man. The man. Griffin. I read this so long
Creature
ago.
from Jekyll Island.
I love this book, but I went to go see Mr. Griffin.
Yeah.
So of course there it is.
Boom. I'll let him know. He'll appreciate that. But he gets a lot of accolades. But I'm telling you,
no, I really respect him for going out and getting his CFA designation and then writing his book. I really, really respect him for that. Doing that, to go out to kind of suspect that something was amiss, but then getting the training you need to really go deep on that issue. And then doing it and writing your book, that really shows to me that, this guy is solid. He knew he didn't have the tools to really fully appreciate the subject matter, went out and got them, and then started speaking. That gets me right in here because that's what I do. This is a kindred spirit of mine now. I really kind of connected with that.
He was kind of. We've done shows like the YYY long shows with G over the years, and he started in the 60s. It was black and white 16 millimeter film or something that he'd have, he was in the living room of
amazing stuff. He's in
the living room of Leave It to Beaver. I mean, with a bunch of people telling him how the socialists and the mindset of the collectivists are doing. I mean, he's been doing this for a long time with a clear understanding of what's up, and he's like 90-something now. I mean, it's getting there. He does his red pill events and so on.
Yeah,
and
I mean, like that guy needs like a libertarian state funeral, I think, on the day he goes.
There was John Taylor Gatto, G. Edward Griffin, Ron Paul. I mean, there's all of these exceptions that prove the rule.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how I put you in that category. You're an exception that's proven the rule. And what is the rule? That they want a rule, and they'll do any and everything to maintain that control. If you're not in control, you're out of control, and they can't have that.
It's power and money and just winning. Don't care how you win or what you have to do to win, just win. And that's the way a sociopath thinks. They'll lie, they'll cheat, they'll steal, they'll murder, they'll do anything because their only thing in here that they're working towards is winning.
That's one thing I want the audience to. I didn't understand this until, probably it's like a decade ago. It was like during the 16, Trump Hillary election of whatever, and we been doing over 10 years now. Since the summer of 15, when he came down the escalator, we did the Trump report with Dr. Frank Tambury and I. He was a big Trump fan, not anymore, but I mean, I'm like, you're still voting? Yeah, we'll do it every week. Let's do it. I'm like, and I can say you're still voting a bunch of times. I mean, let's do this. So what happened was, there was this hope that there could be a change, the Levolution, the Perot years. Reagan. I mean, I'm old enough, Goldwater. I'm old enough to have seen this, and James Corbett did a documentary on it describing it, and it played at Jared Griffin's Red Pill event one time, was hopium. We are, as a species, so into, we just hope that we're going to but you always have sociopaths to choose from. And the sociopath, I never really understood that. Psychopath, sociopath. I knew it was bad, and they're just, bad guys. Yeah, they're bad guys. But if you read the Bible, all the sociopaths, bad guys, were central authority of we're, killing the babies so we don't have the competition and lay waste to and kill, and I remain in charge. I'm a king kind of thing. Then I started to understand. We did a segment on it, and Dr. Tambury, had read the book The Sociopath Next Door, because he had bad experience, in his clique and family of whatever, and he couldn't, because good people don't understand this. What it is, a sociopath, through nature, nurture, genetics, experience, whatever, a part of their brain doesn't light up like the vast majority. They make up like 4 or 5% of the population. They fucking don't care. They can't. They don't have shame or guilt. I saw you do it. No, I didn't. I mean, they just don't care. And they are attracted to positions of authority. They get the lab coat, the shiny badge, the silk tie, the position of I'm senator of whatever, and I rule you. And the biggest reason is because I can, and you're not stopping me. So I mean, because there is no moral hurdle they have to get over. We can't do a widespread election fraud. That would be wrong. This is not the mindset of these people. And that's what Chris is up against. That's what we're all up against. These people, and if they're not those people, they're hired by those people. You want to keep your paycheck and your kid in the private school kind of thing. Yeah. So that's why I call them, let me finish. This is why I call them vampire familiars. They're the ones out there that are doing all the work of the bad guys. If you know their name, it's probably not them. I mean, they them those somebody else. So I don't have to identify everybody. I just know what kind of person they are, what kind of institution they are, what kind of system they've created. Why? Mm-hmm. To control.
Well,
and they don't care.
Yeah, that's it. Money and power. Those are the only things they value. And they will do anything to keep money and keep power. And that's why it's all about winning, but then also at the same time being the victim of everything, because that just leads to more winning or more free stuff. So they're completely and entirely obsessed with playing victims and winning by any means necessary. And so you look at the typical social justice warrior, they fit that personality profile to a T. And we need to you said it, you said it's a mindset. And that's true. And we have to realize that we're not up against an organization. This isn't a club that has annual meetings or anything like that. And this is what, of course, like the debunker crowds are always looking for. And they're like, well, who is it? Name the organization, name the person. But
name the incentive.
But this is a lie. This is a slimy debate tactic where they're basically like, oh, have you stopped beating your wife? And there doesn't have to be a central committee or, votes or a charter or anything like that. Like, these people all go about their lives the same way. They know what they want and what's good for them, and they all help each other getting it. There doesn't need to be a central organizing committee or anything of the sort. And even
there needs to be a gazillion dollar incentive.
Yeah.
It's just an incentive.
Yeah. And once you have the right incentives in place, the right carrots and the right sticks installed throughout all of the positions of your society, then it's on autopilot. You don't even have to show your face anymore. Right. You could just slink into the background and wait a couple of 100 years and let the world forget you and your family even exist.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he did not exist.
Yeah, I'm not here. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah. But so that's it. And it's a mindset. And it's sociopathy, basically. Sociopathy and psychopathy. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, psychopaths and sociopaths are typically smarter than the average person. The average person's about, 100 IQ. That's literally, the average person is 100 IQ. That's the definition. If you're 100, you're average. Sociopaths, high-functioning sociopaths and psychopaths are typically in the 110, the 120s. That's intelligent. That's more intelligent enough to notice that you are smarter than the people around you. And I think that's part of the allure of being a psychopath or a sociopath, is you do realize that you have an advantage. At least,
this is why they're able to get away with a lot of this stuff, because they go like this. This is what we're going to do to you. This is why you're going to be, own nothing and be happy, and we just said it and whatever. And then they feel justified. Well, we told you what we were going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, we put it in this movie.
How couldn't you
we did this predictive programming.
You couldn't figure this out. You're too dumb to figure this out.
Yeah, you're so stupid that you need to be ruled, and I'm your better, and I'm ruling you because I love you so much. It's in your own best interest, so saith this mission statement. And this is what we're up against. And that was what the American experiment was really about. It was, you are equal under the law, and all the other stuff, there is no law. We don't care. Peace out. Go enjoy your life, your liberty, your pursuit of maintaining or improving your happenstance, your happiness. They didn't mean like joy or an emotion. They meant, the lack of government in your freaking way. That's what they meant. So I'm going, it's becoming so obvious, and that's why I wanted to spend this time with you, because it is a demonstration of how our governmental systems that have been created evolved into this. A control grid.
Well, and just to finish my thought, though.
Please.
The problem with being a sociopath or a psychopath at the 120 IQ level is that your ego is just going to explode, because in your day-to-day life is constantly reinforcing your idea that you're smarter than everybody else. The problem is that those people never seem to realize that there's an entire cohort of people at the 130s and the 140s and higher, and many of their job is hunting down people just like you. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did.
And offering them $7,000 an episode.
Yeah, that's what I did at Deloitte for $450 an hour. I was going into the world's largest companies, and one of the things I was doing was just seeing if my radar detected any sociopaths in the company, because invariably those people are always scamming the company. We're looking for a particular personality profile. And it's kind of weird that when they're training us, when we're getting our auditor training, we're not told that this collection of traits is indicative of a sociopath or a psychopath. We're just looking for this collection of traits. I find out later, after I kind of do a deep dive into psychology, that, these people there's a mental category for this kind of person. I just thought that at the time that anybody could be like this, but it's not really the case. These
no shame, no guilt, because they can.
They seem to be a different breed of people, and they seem to be able to recognize each other very well.
Yep.
I don't know how they do it. That's one of the codes I have yet to crack, is how are they so able to recognize each other?
Well, it's a sociopathic version of gaydar.
Yeah. I guess. Something. There's some sort of visual cue, or the way they talk, or the way they move. I don't know.
A lot
they
of
recognize
times,
that.
Well, one of the things, it's kind of like when you have, Down syndrome. It has physical traits. I mean, you can kind of, see it. Well, sociopaths, they kind of have that physical trait sometimes. It's like you're thinking Adam Schiff or AOC or Hillary, got that bug eye, Nancy Pelosi kind of look.
I mean, the bug eyes are a dead giveaway. You're not dealing with a very smart sociopath when they've got the bug eyes.
That's they don't blend as well, but they're good insulation. They're the ones, they're the familiars. But that's one thing that we start learning. And I'm like, God, you don't want to go by this eugenic thing of how somebody looks or whatever. But then you start to realize, there are physical traits to certain other traits. You flip a switch on DNA over here, well, it has impact over here, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So without doing that, you don't have to go by how somebody looks or what their race or religion is or any of that crap. It's just what they freaking do and how they act. And, some of the organizations that they belong to, the mentality that they manifest, or they go all Karen on you and you didn't have a mask, I'm going to do they out themselves in many different ways. And in fact, they are recruited. They get, we need a bunch of Karens to go get everybody to something, right? And they reward them. It's how they get these guys to be shooters. It's how they get extremists. They find the ones that they might be, a little bit more, susceptible in a lot of different ways. And
that is the exact profile that intelligence agencies recruit. That's what they look for.
Yep. And you're a sniper.
I'm the guy that companies hire to hunt those people down and get rid of them.
I was so appreciative, of people like you and Dark Data Services or whatever. They have a moral compass. They can't sit back and allow this to happen. They will, they'll leave me alone if I'll leave them alone. Yeah, they don't deserve to not be left alone. So we got to go get some. So your sense of, it's like Myers-Briggs. It's kind of, I'm a kind of a commando extrovert, whatever the hell it is. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But
I know my Brian Myers-Briggs profile.
Okay, I want to know what it is. You're INTJ or something?
Oh, bang on, INTJ. That's right. I'm like, everybody who I did that test with, and I've done that test 3 times now. I did it in my 20s, and I did it in my 30s, and I did it a couple of years ago.
And I think I'm ENTJ, more
INTJ
extroverted.
The entire time. Yeah.
Okay, now this is what this means.
Introverted, intuitive, thinking and judging.
So this is what this means. There's a personality test that was developed, and I think it's like 8 categories. So anyway, there's different categories.
I think there's 16 in total. 4 dimensions and 16 categories in total.
Got it. So this is a personality test that you take. I think it's like 100 questions or something. There's simple stuff, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. I don't even remember. So somebody that was, in the Levolution thing, they said, man, Ernie, you got to take this. You got to take it. You got to take it. So I get the ENTJ, which it's a smaller percentage. It's kind of like me. I mean, it's a commandos, go get some kind of extrovert and, won't shut up. So this is an influential position, but there's INTJ, which is what Dr. Tamburi is. And it's a sense of justice. So how do you think I know it was INTJ?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a justice thing. Just go, oh man, they're going to get some. They're motivated by justice. So this is why Chris Horlacher is not going anywhere. You tweaked his justice gene, man. He's Spider-Man. With great ability comes responsibility, and I need some justice. You're going to get it. Well, how? Some judge is going to say something or so. That's kind of where I'm going with the show is going, man, you can't count on the system built to make sure the system gets protected by the system, and you're going to get them to go, oh, I could have had a V8. Well, thanks for explaining it that way, Chris. We'll bend our ways. I mean, that's probably not going to happen. But you attack their credibility. You attack them and exposing them for what they are, how they have used the system to protect the system at your expense and the future of your kids, grandkids, great-grandkids. This is generational, fourth turning coming around. There's always a revolution every 80 years, blah, 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 blah. Are we there yet? We're there. And it takes the type of people that Chris is to go point it out, give the justification for not giving a shit what they think. There's no credibility with them. They're not there to serve us, and exposing it. They, them, those don't like that. Of one of the all the things that they don't like that. Okay, because they need that credibility.
No, they mess with the wrong dude. I'm the monkey wrench in their gears right now, and you know you can convince me to leave, or I'm just going to wreck your entire machine.
Do you think they see it that way? Are they just, we just go until the end and doesn't matter, and sometimes you take a black eye, we don't care? I mean, what do you think?
They're definitely worried, or they would not be attacking me. That's the thing. They especially since last summer. Last summer, they started an all-out offensive against me. They hacked into my car. They hacked into my phone, my router. They were in my cloud storage account, lifting files out. I mean, I'm ready for all of this. Like I said, you didn't beat my firewall. I let you in, and so this was all. But I'm just kind of sitting there, and you know, it's still stressful experiencing it, knowing that somebody else could at any moment just take control of your car and drive you off the side of a mountain.
Yeah, I was worried about you need to buy that '65 Chevelle, man.
Yeah. So you know, it's a little bit tricky. Like, it's still scary, folks. But yeah, they were absolutely desperate to get into all of my devices, and it's because they can't. I don't have an online presence anymore. That was one of the other things I did. I left Canada so the warrants wouldn't work anymore, and I unplugged from all of the social media accounts that I maintained. So now your AI personality profiler is going to be working off of super old information. It's not going to give you accurate predictions over what I'm going to do next. So, you know, you're playing chess against a grandmaster. I hope you're ready.
Are you that confident?
I'm pretty confident. I mean, I've made it this far. I should be dead or have withdrawn the lawsuit. But I know that this is coming down to the wire, and so they're going to be attacking with the full might of whatever they have, and they're going to see what I've got too. And then we'll see what it looks like when the dust settles. But either way, I don't see them getting out of this situation that they've created without taking a massive hit to their credibility as a government. Never mind the justice system. The entire government is going to take a massive hit because of this.
Oh, do they care? I mean, maybe, therefore we need a new government. We got another government. We got backup government. We got government, 5.6. I mean, it's not, this is the one thing, the encouragement, I think probably the best encouragement that I can give and that I have in what you're doing. It's not as much the outcome as it is the actual willingness to take on the battle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's why I started to realize we do a lot of Second Amendment advocacy. Certainly in the 90s, we got safe. Second Amendment is for everyone. Are you a safe gun owner? Are you an unsafe congressman? You know, that kind of stuff. We have a lot of fun with it. But it was what I realized. It wasn't so much that they thought they would be successful or they're going to be able to take away all the guns like they did in Australia, kind of thing. And assuming they actually did. But, you know, that was not the point. I mean, of course, that was what they were selling, and, you know, handgun control, and we need and got in gun control and mass shooting of gun control. It was the breeding of an entire population with the mindset that they had the ability to defend against the tyranny. That was in our heritage. That mindset that we were expected to rebel. We were expected to flow off tyrannical government. We were expected and able and capable, and founding documents are you're supposed to. You know, it is not only, you know, your right, it's your freaking duty, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, if the government's good at anything, it's violence.
Well, it's that mindset that they're attacking. It's you know, see, you can't. So saith this here law, and you're not allowed, and you can't. Well, now they're doing that very thing right now. Supreme Court just came out and said, "Whoa, man, we're not even going to adjudicate. Wait till it comes to Supreme Court. You can't do that." You know, banning all these, you know, weapons and so on. So I see what you're doing is kind of in that category. They just want to, you can't do this. We're going to get you, and kind of what you're demonstrating is not so much the end result. I got some judge says, "Oh, God, we weren't doing it right. Thank you for pointing it out, Chris. Here's a bunch of money, and we won't do that anymore." Pinky swear. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
What happens is the credibility of them, the damage to their existence, the general public opinion of they should even be there, is attacked so much. Like in Iceland, when the financial collapse in 2008 happened, they just, you know, pots and pans in the street, kind of, they indict 70 bankers, 30 do time, and they picked a new government out of the phone book or whatever they did. And I'm telling you, I'm going, whoa, there's that. It's the battle. It's the mindset of the battle. Chris is engaged in the battle. He's going to continue the battle. The resistance is not futile. It's the battle, and the willing to wage it and to take hits. If you want to avoid all the cuts and bruises during the project, well, shit, don't even start. But if you're willing to endure it, and you're going to go through it, and you're going to, with the attitude of they're going to get at the very least outed, and everybody knows, and their credibility that they hide behind to do this because they got a shiny badge is gone.
Yeah. Well, and
is what
that's
they
really
fear.
That's the victory. That's actual victory. I remember a line in that movie, The Social Network. Supposedly a quasi documentary about how Facebook got made. It's not. It's all fake. DARPA made Facebook, but it's still a fun movie to watch. And they're meeting the Mark Zuckerberg and the other guy. They're meeting with the founder of Napster, and Sean something or other. And Sean is talking about how, you know, he's won. He's changed the music industry and all this kind of stuff. And Zuckerberg's partner interjects, and he's like, but you lost it. But you lost. And Sean comes back, in court. Do you want to buy
more
Tower
Records
right
out
now?
anymore?
And so, victory in court is not the only kind of victory. And, you know, there's all kinds of other ways. Like, you know, you hurt me. You spent 17 years hurting me, and I'm going to hurt you back. And that's just the way of the world, folks.
No, it's the way of the world with the INTJs. That's what that is.
Yeah, you came out and you told me that, and you demonstrated to me that you were an existential threat to me, and I'm going to deal with you. So, there's a lot of ways I can win. If I get a big fat check, even if I sign the NDA, I win. If Donald Trump finally pays attention to my case and says, that's the last straw, we're taking over Canada because look what they did to this, you know, look what they're doing to their best and brightest. if Canada gets invaded by the United States and is wiped out and turned into the 51st state, I've won. So, yeah, there's a lot of different ways I can win this, and most of them do not involve me getting a payday.
You know, the one thing that you always look for, you know, in a great movie, a drama, a rooting for the good guy kind of thing, it was always a long struggle. It was always years, you know, it was decades, whatever, and finally, and then the world changed. There's a world change coming. Mm-hmm. You know, we just finished a nonconformist series of Anarchapulco, and this one that starts this weekend, as a matter of fact, Saturday, and it is Surviving the Apocalypse. What was interesting to me, because as MC, it was my responsibility to watch all of the videos, do an intro and outro, go to the next one, keep it flowing, you know, that kind of thing. I'll participate, you know, this weekend in the, you know, round tables at the end of the days, you know, that kind of stuff. Well, as I go through all of these, I got a preemption of everybody. I got to see all the videos. They're out of like a dozen or so. Big minds, you know, lots of guys, you know, there wasn't one crypto presentation. That surprised me. You know, not that, you know, a bunch of it all cryptoed up, we get it. You know, that wasn't the point. The point is that we know what's happening. We, in this community, we get it. We applaud what Chris is doing. It needs to be done. But what do we know? It comes down to peer-to-peer communication. It comes down to mesh networking. It comes down to community and who you pick and who you have in, and, you know, stop picking sociopaths because they got skills and a government check behind them. They always want to be your computer guy. You know, as being a political activist, you know, we always be playing, you know, spot the Fed. Well, it was always, they show up first, they leave last, and they want to help you with your database. I mean, that's just how it works, you know. So I'm going, and I got the resource, we're going to help, you know, get something. Fed, you know, we're street activists, we're making size. We don't give a crap about code or whatever. So this is
that's actually a good test. That's one of the things I've learned. It's a good test to see if somebody is an agent, because there's certain things that they seem like they're not allowed to do, and one of those things is be paid or take money from the people they're targeting. So if somebody's trying to infiltrate your business or infiltrate your company, but they're saying, "Oh, I want to be a volunteer," or you know, do something that doesn't involve me getting paid in money, you pay me in barter, pay me in some other way, that's a red flag, folks, because they're going to be working away, earning that paycheck. They don't get to keep it. That's the other thing. That gets just donated into some black box budget, so that
or the FBI agents infiltrating Silk Road just steal the Bitcoin.
Yeah. So the money they make being undercover, they don't get to keep. Of course, that would compromise their independence, and maybe they might actually become a double agent if they actually got to keep the money. So they don't get to keep it. And some of these people are actually running companies, and they don't get to keep the profits of that company. That they have all sorts of ways of laundering it back into the black budgets of the service. And so I've witnessed this. I've been on the hunt. I'm a Big Four auditor. This is my, like, hunting down this exact kind of activity is my bread and butter. I was trained by the best people on the goddamn planet to do this.
Spider-Man!
So
great. With our abilities come responsibility, and you're taking on and then that justice thing. Yeah.
You know, you may have the technological high ground, folks, but I have the investigatory high ground. I know what I'm doing, and I can create situations where you will expose yourselves, and you may not even know you've done that.
So we can go until you're done, but I want to make sure we get in towards the end here. The goal, the ultimate goal. Your sense of justice can come in a lot of different ways. For me, the most effective is just understanding. You're wasting time trying to fix the system. You can expose it. make it do what it's supposed to. The only time they have credibility is when they do their job. That's why I just go, do your job. What do you want Trump to do his job? Do your job. What's your job? Protecting my rights. In the first administration, we're going to stop bump stocks, freaking auto five, some bullshit kind of, what the crap? You're not doing your job. You can expose that they're not doing their job well, what they're saying their job is to us. What their real job is control. So I'm looking at the real win is they don't control. They're not in control. We have devices, abilities, technology to not be controlled. It's decentralized, which is why us out on occupytheland.org here, what are the categories that we're focusing on? Communication is number one. We have, satellite, we got mesh networks, we got. You have energy. We're all solared up. I got like 3 stations. 1 is none, 2 is 1, and 3 is more than 1. Okay, so we have that taken care of. Then it's shelter. Food and water work. All these things that are devoid of control. Or I'm just ignoring it. I'm not looking for a permission slip from the crown. But that idea is what their biggest challenge is. That we know that they're not there to serve. We don't really have a say, a voice, a vote, an opinion that is heeded to. It is the system is there to extract from us as they would livestock. This is what it is. You're still voting? I mean, if you think you could vote locally in your own self-interest, fine. There's no central plan for freedom. My point is that the delegation of this authority and these abilities to supposedly protect your rights to something else thousands of miles away that you are doing, hell, it might as well just be colony of, the King of England. I mean, so this is what it's about. And this story that Chris has detailed for us, I'm like, I appreciate the battle. But if you think you're going to fix it, I mean, come on. So before you go, I want you to give us some optimism, give us something to support. How can we help? What motivation we need to keep, you motivated and in the battle. It's the battle. It's the exposure. It's your, due diligence, discovery, and, stings. And what did you find out from your stings now that you're ready to share with the court? And you can share it with us first. So tell me, what you did.
Yeah. Well, I need voices. I need voices to start shouting from the mountaintops that this is happening and that we are maybe months away from delivering a humiliating defeat to one of the most corrupt governments on the planet. And that has been they have demonstrated that this is the Achilles heel of the entire system. They fear exposure. They fear a general awareness of what they're up to. And this came at me in the wake of my press release, The Assassination of Equibit, because what had happened is through various channels I have, that story wound up on Zero Hedge and went completely viral. Tens of thousands of people read it on Zero Hedge. It got syndicated by dozens of websites.
Can I give the title of the article?
The Assassination of Equibit. And it's on my Equibit lawsuit website, so you'll find it there. The original document is on Google Drive. It might be the first result if you search the name of the article, so you could just read it there too. But yeah, that freaked them out, that I was able to get something onto a platform as big as Zero Hedge that got that much exposure. And Sergey's lawyer, his defense lawyer, took a huge issue with that letter and started trying. He was just twisting in the wind, trying to say, "Oh, you've made some libelous statements against my client." But then he proceeded to not actually talk about his client at all, but talk about two men who drugged and attempted to kidnap my wife. So hold on a second here, Mr. Defense Lawyer. Do you represent Sergey or do you represent these two attempted kidnappers? And so he's never clarified that little Freudian slip he had. But he was very, very upset that I was able to get something on a big platform like that. So you've just told me how to hurt you, and I need help because I don't have social media. I don't have a big following. I had to go into the shadows and fight from there. And it's the only reason I've been able to get as far as I have, because if I was very visible, then you can take all kinds of other actions. But again, I'm controlling the situation. I'm deciding what options you have to attack me with. And I'm ready for every single vector you're going to come at me with. So yeah, we need to start shouting from the mountaintops that we're about to deliver a near fatal blow to a national government. And it's going to expose a program that they've been gaslighting us for decades doesn't exist, which is the gang stalking.
Time for
targeted individual program. Now, I've never experienced any sort of electronic warfare like Havana syndrome type stuff. I think. I mean, there were times when I was still in Canada where I was, going through massive anxiety and depression and other stuff. So, maybe they had pointed one of these things at me just to make that worse. But my company had just been collapsed and I'd been betrayed by everybody around me. So, yeah, you're going to feel pretty bad in that sort of situation anyway. So I don't know if I've personally experienced that. But what I have experienced is mass persistent surveillance by all sorts of digital means, physical means, and the like. And so these are all the traditional ways before, DEWs or whatever kind of, secret weaponry has been devised over the last few decades that might be getting used in these scenarios. I don't know. Maybe it's not a part of the case. But what is all of the other forms of surveillance and manipulation that they have been using that is now forensically proven. I'm not just an individual saying the government did this to me and you just have to take my word for it. I have actual documented proof it happened. These people do get into your phones. They do place people in your lives. They do have people approach you and try to befriend you to lead you down various paths. Maybe they want to entrap you. Maybe not. Maybe they just want to neutralize you as a person and then get you into a comfortable career where activism is no longer your chief concern. It's Zersetzung. Look it up. The goals are varied, but the methods are always the same. Surround you with their operatives and guide your life in directions that is safe for them. This is
this is one of the things.
We can prove this in court beyond a reasonable doubt, and I'm asking for people's help financially, digitally. Lend me your ears and lend me your words and your websites and your podcasts and your platforms and whatever it is that you have to get this issue in front of people. It's real. It's happening. The Ontario court system is crippled right now because of me and what I am doing. And if you want this to continue and you want this to succeed, then we need to come together. It can't be just me anymore. I am not enough. I've taken it 90% of the way, but I cannot get this over the finish line myself. I need help. And here I am.
Thank you. And we want to do our part, want to help. And, I do see up there that there is just a narrow link, and I don't have to go through Konami, but we'll do that. I want to address one thing, get your opinion before you go. I remember, I do shows. When is the date on this? This is like in 16. This is December 16. You go back several years, and whenever I do these shows, oh, I'm sorry, that video doesn't exist anymore. It was taken, it's always deplatformed and gone. And like, they can suck it, man. I'm just we're done. So what we did is now, even where we have, this is the show that we did in 2003. By then, we started using interplanetary file system, IPFS or sharing or whatever. And so everything that we do, we put into an IPFS, which is a mesh noded network of you can't delete it, deplatform. It's there forever and always. Amen. Kiss our ass. We have our own server that interfaces with this network of data is always available. The streaming networks like, what was it, DLive, we would be on also, and they just...
It's kind of like a tokenized BitTorrent.
Oh, IPFS. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So then you have different. So what we do is this. We go ahead and have we have the feed. This is our live stream that we do on the site. You know, we have, of course, when you go into the shows, you have them there, you know, and they last is 3.5 years old. They haven't been able to get rid of you from before, you know. So that's why we do that. My question to you is, the focus of decentralization of the storage of this data, the access to this data, to do that, I am not spending a lick of time worrying about. Now, of course, we post on to YouTube and Rumble and Bitch and other people manage it, but I don't even interface with it. I don't do comments. I don't care, because I don't trust. They're all trolls and bots and whatever anyway. So this is, and we do use it, you know, to put on like, you know, the Libertas thing. You know, we got all the platforms and everything. Yeah, whatever. I never go interface, look, don't care. So this show will go on these different platforms, and they'll do whatever they're going to do because they don't like Chris, and I don't give a crap, because we have done the storage and the dissemination and the access to the data in a totally different way to where it can't be censored. That's the freaking point. Well, your focus has been integration with the system, and I'm wondering how your philosophical evaluation of everything has gone to where we're going to have to replace this whole damn thing. You know, we're going to have to support, like I support you and your efforts. I support decentralization, not being on their grid, not giving a crap, because in the end, they, them, those control. You're going to find out. If you hadn't already, you're going to. And if your wealth is in paper on a statement or a screen or something you get in the mail, whatever, man, it's gone. So you need to put it in the skills and physical assets and land, whatever, you know, food. I mean, whatever you're going to buy with all that, you know, crypto wealth you had or whatever. I am, you know, some cryptos are better than others. We're like really pushing Xano right now. But I am philosophically understanding that they, them, those are going to do any and everything they can, because they can, until you make it to where they can't, to control you, to control Chris, me, with their systems. We have to have a parallel outside, don't give a crap, doesn't interface, or it does, or whatever, but anything you do does not stop the signal. Mm-hmm. You gotta be Mr. Universe. Everything goes somewhere and I go everywhere. I mean, that kind of thing. So the decentralization of tech and thought and experimentation, the American experiment, the downtown Detroit experiment, or whatever experiment of experiments, that this is where it's going. And your battle with them and all the stuff that you're doing, attacking their credibility, long live the battle. I mean, the solution, the end, the reward, the justice, that's the battle. The battle is the win, from my perspective. You just keep doing it until you can't do it. But I need your opinion on what I've been talking about in the decentralization as a solution to not have these battles. What say you?
Well, it's a tricky question. It's a big question. And the way I see things kind of going here is we don't necessarily have to be worried about changing or disrupting the existing system. The existing system is scheduled for destruction.
Right.
The elites have already told us this. So they're about to, maybe a year or two away from doing something absolutely radical with the state of government planet-wide. We just need to be ready for that moment, because at the moment they destroy the old system and then begin to introduce the new system is their weakest moment. And they know that. They've done this enough times over the thousands of years that they know that the moment they destroy the old system in the minds of the people, they are in their most vulnerable state, because at that point, the populace has given up on the old system. It's been officially destroyed. Okay, there's no system now. But they also have to accept the new one without much resistance. And that is the moment where you need to turn your resistance dial right up to 11. And you need to be ready and able to say no and enforce that no against armed police officers if you have to. That's the only way I see this proceeding. And if they hear a strong enough no from enough communities that have unified and decentralized their infrastructure, and they're doing their own water and electrical and all that kind of stuff, and they have prepared themselves and are ready for this exact moment where the new system is trying to establish itself in the wake of the old system being destroyed, we all need to be ready to say no and enforce it.
Well, the only way you can do that is if you're able to shelter yourself, feed yourself, communicate what you're doing with that. I mean, it's all that basic decentralization of civilization down to be able to have an agorist market, that alternative currencies, alternative vendors, alternative, get fed. I mean, it's going to be a food thing.
You need to be ready for like a wartime siege. You need your supply chains figured out. Right. You need to know where your energy and your water are coming from and your food. You need to be ready, just like a medieval community it was, for a siege, where you could go weeks or months without any food or any shipments or anything coming in. And if you can do that, you're ready to say no. But
for how long? How long do you think you need to do it? Is it a month, a year, 2 months, the rest of your life? Gulch, what?
I'd say minimum 3 months. Look at the Bundy Ranch. Look at what they were able to do, because that's going to be happening all over the country.
Yeah.
And you need to be ready to do the same thing.
That was one thing I interviewed Amon, quite a few times, and we followed the Bundy Ranch thing from a principled standpoint when they're in Nevada and then Oregon and whatever, and they were acquitted. They eventually went through the process, and a lot of consternation went through that. And I talked to their family and the daughter, and I mean, it was fascinating, but it was the same thing that's with you. It was the battle. It was the refusing to, hell no, I ain't doing it. Same thing, Randy Weaver. What was it? Spence or something, the attorney that did. He wins. He's got a dead wife and baby, but, I mean, he wins and gets money from the government. But then the FBI guys that shoots him gets awards. So it's the battle itself, not the end. You find it's attacking their credibility. It's the idea that there are people like Chris, that will do battle with them and have the capability and the understanding. It's the battle. It's the exposing. It's the attacking. And what role do we have?
Yeah.
Well, understand.
It's the noise of the war, and people like you are making are noticing that noise and the commotion that's going on, and telling your audience, hey, there's something going on here we need to pay attention to.
You need to support that which you want to see more of. That's my point. You send a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit there, a little cash, a little something, 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 a little help, a little encouragement. It's a member of the audience here that really promoted the resurgence. And he was on my ass to get Dan Dick's contact information for you to get that going, to have this, because Dan, perfect guy to do that, by the way. So I'm going, and come on here and we interview you again. It's time. It's that. People that support what you're doing, that recognize its importance. But I don't give a shit what some government-robed guy with a wig judge and says authority of, you win or lose or what. Who gives a crap what they say? That's not the point.
Yeah.
It's the
well,
battle.
we have it in writing. They will lie about what transpired in the courtroom just to make the decision they wanted to make.
Yeah, you're not allowed to record or bring in the phone. I know why. This is why. So I'm really encouraged by you continuing this fight. I had no idea you were still. Damn. I mean, you should contacted me. But what we're going to do is we'll put this out. We'll promote it. It goes out to our subscribers. There'll be tens of thousands of whatever, at least, see that there's a battle and it's going on, and the encouragement to help by just supporting in any way, just forwarding the show, whatever, that which you want to see more of. That's it. Mm-hmm. What do you want to see more of? You want to see more
you want to see
Horlacher.
Chris beating on the Attorney General some more?
There you go. Yes, I did. Yes, what I got to do. I got to go to, let's pull up the lawsuit page. Oh, wrong mouse. Pull up the lawsuit page up here. You should check out the ultimatum to the Attorney General. That's in the news feed. That's a very that was my offer to settle after we interrogated a CSIS spy who basically detonated their entire defense. Their entire defense that they spent over a year mustering was 2 pages long that just said, "Oh, we don't know anything about this." Where is it? I'm looking for it.
You got to scroll up a little bit. It's August. The date stamp is August 2025. There it is, an ultimatum.
Okay. And this is comprised of what? The ultimatum is, man.
Well, that was my offer to settle.
Done.
So we had just come off the heels of the previous post, which is CSIS forced into discovery, with the little sweaty dude. Yeah, that one there. And so the CSIS officer we interrogated completely contradicted the Attorney General's defense. The Attorney General said, "We don't know anything." And the CSIS officer said, "Well, yeah, we do know some things. We just don't want to say."
Okay. Well, I guess you don't have to say that.
So you really just shot yourself in the face. And so immediately I send them off an offer letter to settle, just telling them just how monumental their fuck up
demise is going to be.
Yeah, I really kind of tried to get the word across that you really picked a fight with the wrong man, guys, and you're an embarrassment to the country, and I'm going to make sure everybody knows if you keep this up. So apparently they want the country to know this. So I will happily oblige the Attorney General. His career in law might be over by the time I'm done with him.
We've been almost 3.5 hours, and I think we covered. Is there anything else you want? I wanted to make sure we, both got to express ourselves, and I think we understand. See, it's always why. You can see why I focus on why all the time. You know what? Now we can expect you're not stopping. This is here we go to dying breath kind of thing.
Well, and why attack me? If I'm not a threat, why are you attacking me? Why are you debanking my companies and hacking into my machine?
Because you're not complying, you non-complier.
Yeah. We have to win. We have to win. So we're just going to ignore the fact that we're bleeding out all over the ring and our arm's been torn off. But, hey, just a flesh wound, guys. And, King Arthur, you chop everything off. Come on, I'll just fight your ankles at this point. That's kind of what that's the situation at the moment.
Are you getting infiltrated, the attempts, the volunteer wants to help with your whatever? Is that continuing?
No, because I kind of have lived as a recluse for the last 5-6 years. So I don't want to speak to anybody. I don't want friends. I don't go out, hang out. I literally just kind of wake up and go to work and then hang out with my family and go to bed. And that's been my life for 5 years. So it's not a bad
pretty
life.
nice life.
Not a terrible life.
I mean, it does not suck.
Well, I've at
living.
least managed to create a nice place to exile myself to.
And raise a family.
It could have been things could have been a lot worse. And so I'm thankful for that. And that I've been able to carry out this lawsuit and keep it going as long as I have. I don't know if this is going to last forever. Just one guy.
I hope so.
Come on. They're Batman, I'm Joker, and we're just going to do this forever, guys.
Yeah, come on.
I love you. I love you, man.
Well, I'm glad that you're continuing to do this and you kept us updated. And I wanted to get the whole story out in one show. It's 3.5 hours, but I couldn't help but express myself in light of all of this, because I've been an activist I know how it is that they work. It's a wear you down thing. Well, what if they can't wear you down? What if there's, a Chris and then another Chris and then another one and another one and then we all it's gotten to that point. Certainly after, like 9/11 and the financial crash, and in the 90s it was Iraq War and Ruby Ridge and Waco and Oklahoma City and 9/11 and the .com era and the housing crash and the financials of from 7 to 11 all the crap, and then more war, Iran, and we have and I'm just like, golly, man, at what point do you freaking get it? These guys, they're bad. And it's all a general public opinion. It's propaganda in every freaking form they can get away with, and they're going to keep doing it until they can't. And it takes people just like you, Chris, to resistance is not futile. The resistance is the beginning of the win right there. The resistance itself. Well, what about the result of the resistance? I don't give a shit. We just need to all resist.
Yeah, at some point, every abused person has to start punching back. It will never end. All of these psychologists who are like, "Oh, just ignore them, go live your life." It's those people are there to make you easier targets. They gotta to fight back. You have to fight back, but you don't do it violently, because of course violence is there.
They want that.
They want you to get violent. There's
trying to get you to do it.
There's
you with a stick.
There's all kinds of FBI operations going on right now designed to get people to resort to violence. You got to use your mind. You got to punch back with your thoughts and your strategies and your tactics and the techniques you're going to use to draw these criminals out into the light and then crush them with exposure.
They got a plan. There's a plan. They always got a plan. They got a central plan for you. There's a central plan for whatever you want, and chicken in every pot, and two-car garage filled up with Lamborghini, whatever. They got a plan. We got a plan for you. We're in charge of you. We got a better plan. I remember, the Mike Tyson quote. He goes, "Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face." Well, their plan, we got a plan. Bam! Whoa! Wait a minute. What was my plan? I forgot. I got to come up with a new plan. Mm-hmm. So we need to be punching back. I agree. Yeah. And it's that
they never expect it, which is the funny thing. They're so absolutely convinced of their own physical or tactical superiority that when you start punching back, the shock on their face is like, you can feel it. That
it's not even the punch back; it's the non-compliance.
Yeah.
You wear a mask. You won't take the shot. You won't, do what we want. DOJ. That was one thing. It was in the January 6th trial, it was the attorneys that sit there prosecuting, we'll put them all in jail and you better plead guilty or 30 years and whatever the hell. And they, really wanted me on their side to certify an MP3 so they could use it in criminal defense, criminal prosecution of people. But I'm on that file. That's a Fifth Amendment thing. I'm not certifying a file for you to lathe up a Louisville Slugger, wrap it in barbed wire, and beat me over the head with it. No, Fifth Amendment. Well, you can't do that because we say you can't. So, well, I say I can. Bring me in, and I'll say it on the stand. Let's do it. So they, had the hearings in the Zoom with the judge, and you got it. And I said, I'll bring it. Here's the file. They already got it. They just want me to certify it so they can use it. Well, I'm not helping them, especially since I'm on there, and they didn't even offer me a proffer or a deal or anything. I go, screw them. I don't trust them. During this process, and eventually they send me to Washington. I go in the court and fight. You really good? Yep. Got it? Nope, don't need one. Bring it. And they go, damn it. All right, you can go home. Call my bluff. And the reason I enjoyed it, I didn't even waste any amount of time on it in the year and a half, 2 years. They were jerking around with me. But where they got to pay is when I told my family, it was at Christmas time, it was mid-December, and I told my family, I texted them, that Papa's coming home for Christmas. Because they thought, I always say, all I want is I want a blanket. When you put me in the cell to think upon my sins, I knew they were torturing these people and cold and no warmth and blanket. I just want a blanket. Can I get a blanket? I just want a blanket. Kiss my ass. So when I say I'm coming home, some of my grandchildren started crying. Papa's coming home for God. I said, oh, you got to pay for that one. You got to pay for that one. That was where. So I understand. It's the battle. It's the willingness. It's to say no. Take the hit. If you're not willing to put up with some bumps and bruises, you already lost. Mm-hmm. That's the point.
If you're not okay with temporary discomfort, you're not cut out for this.
Right.
You got to be okay getting in the muck and wrestling pigs because they're pigs. They're pigs.
Well, as I was dealing with them, I'm nice and go, well, I'm just not because out of principle, I can't believe you guys don't understand my point and whatever. And then they got the FBI guy that would call me and do the conference call with the DOJ and, trying to convince me. And then I caught them in a lie. I knew they'd lie. I was waiting for them to lie. And I go, I told the FBI, I said, I don't talk to them anymore. Subpoena me. This went on for like a year. They keep bugging you. You have to. You got to. Always. They show up at my daughter's house because we were on the Love Bus Liberty tour, and we had our tow car Jeep that was registered there. So they're banging on the door. Guys, I said, we know you're in there. And they call me. We know you got to go. I don't know where the hell I'm on the Columbia River and Canadian Washington State border. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Where are you? Well, you're at my daughter's house. I go, really? Oh, stand down. We don't need the helicopters kind of crap. I'm just like, and all they wanted to try and coerce you into signing to certify the document to qualify for them to use. And my daughter is cool. She used to be my producer for life. She gets it. My kids understand. And she's like not answering the door. She didn't know who it was. Didn't care. It's the middle of the day. Beautiful young woman with a new kid and kind of, I'm not going. And they're bam, 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 bam. She goes, I'm definitely not buying your solar panels. I mean, she had no idea what the hell was going on. So my kids are cool about that. But dealing with the DOJ prosecuting attorneys, it was exactly what you said. It was very obvious. You're resisting our authority. I'm a DOJ prosecuting sitting here in Washington, D.C. I'm telling you got it. And I go, nah, I'm good. Call me in. They have a hearing with the judge, and he's like, he said he'd comply and come here, so we're all good. Subpoena him. Damn it. So these guys, they don't see the Ernies and Chris's out there. They don't believe you exist. And when they come across you, they are dumbfounded. But I have the shiny badge. But I'm the government, and you have to, and you got to, nah, I'm good. Put me in. I'll do my time. Because I wanted to challenge it on Fifth Amendment. And if they bring you in camera and the judge explains it to you, they call it in camera or something. Do you understand that? I go, no, I do not. You got to explain. Okay, go into the chambers without prosecuting defense attorneys, and I go in there. They go, explain it to me. You're going to go serve some time. If you don't say, oh, under duress, oh, okay, well, shit, give me that thing to sign. I did it under duress, or I just take the hit and go serve my time, and then I got a Fifth Amendment journalist, whatever, because I knew what they were doing. They wanted to prevent us from talking to people like you. They have the control. We're going to use your, and which they had increased the fine with Eric Voorhees, get, Veer in jail, whatever. They use this show. Oh, yeah, no, we listened to it. Going prosecuting some of the guys that we were, on January 6th, we were interviewing them live. That's why they wanted it. And so this is, you're right. They don't see it coming. They don't have that perspective. They can't. You think
no? They
can't. No, they can't.
They think they're the apex predator because they've managed to chain up the lion.
And then he doesn't forget anything. Bull elephant goes and kicks some ass. That's what happens.
But, you're a pack of hyenas. Yeah, sure. Maybe you got a couple of lions chained up, but eventually one's going to come along that you can't chain up.
Is that how you see yourself? Is this a responsibility that you've kind of assigned yourself?
Yeah, and a bit of a privilege, I guess, that the trajectory of my life has sort of just set me on this path, and I try to accept it all graciously, as much agony as it's been, but it has forged me into something that I am still trying to really have a full appreciation of in terms of what I am capable of, and whatever they saw in me, I'm trying to see in myself, because whatever it was, it terrified the shit out of them.
And that's one thing that why we spent so much time in the beginning on the why and so on. What is it that they think they're up against, and how can they control it, and how can they FUD everybody? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And when you're principally base, that's much more difficult. I'm like, yeah, bring it, man. Give your head communist to come on, debate. And you see this with, good libertarians, a comedian, David Smith, goes and kicks ass. All right, bring it. Let's talk about it. If you're confident in your principles, what do you say you're supposed to be doing here, Mr. Government? And you can't lose a battle. Yeah. I mean, you may lose battle, but you're not losing the war.
It's great to just kind of pretend like we're already in a world without government, and that these agents in front of you are trying to sell you a system. And if you just have that mindset of, okay, like, I'm a free person and you're trying to sell me your system of
slavery version
organization, then I'm just going to have a few questions before I buy into this, sir.
Questions? You're not allowed to ask questions.
Yeah. Exactly, and of course, and again, they want two things: they want to win, and they want to always be the victim. And as soon as their narrative cannot be spun into that, they very quickly start feeling very, very uncomfortable, because they know they're on the wrong side of this debate, and you're saying things that make it very obvious to everybody around that they are the ones in the wrong, and they can't tolerate that position. Not like in their own internal situation, because they're narcissists. They always have to be the victim. Right. But then also professionally, they're making their agency look bad by even having this conversation with you. So they're going to skedaddle.
What kind of turnover are you dealing with? As you're doing the prosecution of you and all this, all right, you're number third guy I got to deal with, or is it the same people?
Well, the head lawyer from the Attorney General's office has stayed the same. However, Sergei's lawyer has just dropped him. Like, I'm not your lawyer anymore. Go find somebody else, because of what I did to him in Discovery.
Yeah. Don't have enough money to help me defend this crap,
Yeah, no, he couldn't even look me in the eye by the end. He couldn't look me in the eye.
The attorney?
Yeah. Because he knew how bad of a job he just did.
Okay, before you go, I want you to explain to the audience why this needs their attention. What's at stake here? What is the long-term lesson? What is it that we're going to derive from this effort?
Well, we can prove in court that the targeted individual gang stalking program exists. I have forensic proof of it, and I'm about to enter it into the courts. So that's one thing we can do. Another thing is we can just humiliate the shit out of the Attorney General of Canada. Yeah. And I've been doing that quite a lot, and I plan on continuing doing it. We have a real shot at undermining the credibility of the Five Eyes network. So that goes to not only Canadians, but also United States citizens, UK citizens, Australian and New Zealand citizens. We have a moment here where we can expose the Five Eyes as a bunch of two-bit criminal operation. Not even like a really good criminal operation. In my professional opinion,
they don't need to be. They got shiny badges.
Yeah, so you can hide behind your Hollywood movies and your press releases, but at the end of the day, you're all a bunch of hacked together two-bit criminals, not even particularly good at what you do, and. Yeah, this is who our governments have decided to entrust our national security to. Yeah, I don't fucking think so. Disband all of these agencies. Did you know that CSIS, incidentally, was founded in 1984? In 1984. Huh.
Big Bubba in Canada.
That seems symbolically important for some reason.
They have what is it, DEF CON? They go to these hacker things in like Vegas and so on, and they have no capability, so they got to entice the 13 to 23-year-olds that their parents watch them in the basement on their computer, and you're never going to have be productive, whatever. I can't believe that you're wasting your time on, I get the white picket fence, the BMW, and the super hooker babe list that they're giving me, and I am somebody, and they work for the band because they don't know any better. Mm-hmm. And it's because these guys don't have these kinds of skills. They recruit them. Well, sometimes, when you have all these in the crypto space, we did the Pirates Without Borders book that we, philosophical anarchist decentralization thing. And we go and pass it out to all these guys. You have 8 of them sitting in the corner on their $4,000 laptop of, coding away doing something. And you can see the venture capitalist guy they take their silk tie off and got their jacket on to kind of, low key or a little gold change. Yeah, what's up? Hey, man, we need you to, we have a hackathon, and you demonstrate that you can, and we own you now and contract. And
That's
I see
these
it
things
over and over.
They're recruitment ops.
Yeah, exactly, because they can't do it.
It goes deeper than that even. So the officer who led me into the whole, let's develop Equibit so we can steal it and destroy it, so he was a student at Queen's University in the cognitive science program. And the story he gave me was that he dropped out so he could flip this company. And he was only a couple of credits away from graduating. And so you couldn't have waited 4 months just to finish your university, flip the business or just buy the business. Now sit on it, finish your studies, and then get to work on it. You could have done that. Why were you in such a hurry to leave university when you're so close to finishing this prestigious program, by the way?
I had a better offer.
Yeah, I think maybe somebody from CSIS came to visit this guy and said, "Oh, you're so smart, and you're just the kind of person we want working protecting our nation."
Protecting
our nation. And, of course, being the dark triad that he was, and dark triads are sociopathic, narcissistic, and Machiavellianism. And that is the profile of a modern day spy. It's called a dark triad in the world of psychology. And I have CIA documents that are declassified, an article where they're like, yeah, this is the profile of a spy. It's not like the James Bond debonair person who's just really into his country. They're looking for narcissists, sociopaths, and Machiavellianism. And he hit all three now big time after knowing this man for an extended period. And so, yeah, they recruited him right out of Queen's University. And they recruited the other guy I identified as the other CSIS officer, because there's always two, folks. Learn how these things operate.
Yeah, no, we found out a lot of their stings and stuff. It's always Arizona, but that there were competing stings in the same thing. They didn't know about each other. It comes out. Yeah,
I've actually experienced that, where multiple... two operations from two different intelligence agencies collided on me from the looks of it.
Yeah, no, they go, you know what we should do? We should rob a bank to, support or do this little fraud. And the other agent goes, yeah, that's what we should do. Let's do that. And then they kind of,
it's kind of like,
each other.
Wait, hold on, we're CIA. Are you with Australian intelligence? Yeah,
right.
yeah. We're there. Like, what's going on? Oh, we're here to try and entrap him this way. Oh, no. We're here to kidnap his wife. And like that kind of shit. Like this. It played out right in front of my eyes.
They're corrupt, and they're of this mindset, so they assume that everybody's like that. When they go in to infiltrate some organization or whatever, oh my God, there might be some principled libertarian or Christian or some other ideology that, doesn't operate from their same system. They can't understand it. They don't have the neuro infrastructure to recognize it. They're sociopaths. It doesn't light up certain things. You show them pictures of, distressed puppies, and it's a fried egg. I mean, it doesn't appeal. It doesn't register with them. So when you have this kind of stuff and somebody stands up like Chris, they really don't understand. What's his angle? What's the angle? Justice's angle. Really? That's all you got? So I'm so encouraging of the battle continuing. I want to make sure that you keep doing this. How long before we need to have you back on? What's your schedule?
I don't know. Maybe give it about 6 months. Like we're waiting now at this point for a trial date to be set. The court must. There are no moves left for the Attorney General. There's nothing left for him to play that will delay or defer things to a later date. Like we just had the mediation hearing. You couldn't even look. You couldn't even show up and look at me in mediation. So yeah, like every opportunity to reconcile the two parties has failed, and the court must set a trial date. So this is the Ontario Superior Court of Justice, and it's the Attorney General of Canada. The lawyer in charge, his name's Roger Flame, Flaim, and you can just start emailing the Attorney General and the Ontario Superior Court, telling them that Chris wants his day. And you
I want to have this conversation 6 months from now, and all this must shit they got to do. I'm just like, yeah, this. How many must things I've gone through and expired and been done. It's so corrupt, and that's part of the demonstration, going through this to show how corrupt and incredible they are. The system is not broken. It's not something you can fix, because it's fixed in their favor. They already got it fixed. Yeah,
so they told me point blank that they're not going to enforce the rules of civil procedure on the government. So yeah, it's fake. It's not a real court. And you abandoned the core, your whole raison d'etre. You are there to guarantee the law, that the legal process follows procedure, and then you told me we're not following procedure.
How many times are you feeling that message? This is I want to predict, and I probably won't remember this when we talk again months later, but they're not going to follow rules because they don't. So you have to anticipate that. So the win is the notoriety for that they're not following the rules. They're illegitimate.
And I based my entire legal strategy on the fact that they were going to fight dirty. And that's why I had all of my traps lying in wait for them. And that's why I would mock and goad and bait them. And they would constantly then respond exactly the way I had expected them to, falling into every single trap I ever set for them.
It reminds me when I first started doing radio in the spring of '03. There was a guy in Washington that he was like Bigfoot guy, big trucks and whatever. But he was a computer geek, and this was '03. This is right before broadband really became a thing. And what happened was he was in his garage working on it with a friend of his. The cops came up and threatened him with you're obstructing traffic. Kind of as they were berating his friend because his ex-wife was dating one of the cops that then going to harass this guy in front of him. He's defending his friend. He goes, hey man, hey you got. So they went after him and threatened him with all kinds of whatever, and they're these kind of bad cops. So he's like, okay, you're gonna be like that. So he went inside, pulled up, doxed this cop, and he sent the file to the precinct and said, look, don't be threatening me with whatever, man. I'll get some. So they, so sorry bothering you, whatever, but that put him on the list, and he knew it. So what he did is he bought a house. He totally refurbed the basement, all legal, being a data center of whatever, got business insurance, a $10 million insurance policy or whatever, and then he did a public information. It's all public information on every cop in Seattle or Washington State or something. And he did this. This isn't back in '03, '02, around in there. He did all of this knowing they were going to come after him. Well, they did. Here they come. Well, they go in. He's doing everything legal, First Amendment, whatever. They show up in the first hearings on this, and all of a sudden he's got 3 attorneys behind him. They were from the insurance company. They didn't anticipate that he set them the F up. He's like, bring it. I know what kind of people. I know what you're going to do. Boom! Here we go. Mm-hmm. Well, that turned into a thing for years and whatever, and more transparency of law enforcement and everything was a result. But it was anticipating how they operate, what kind of people they are, what's going. And then when Cop Block, Pete Iyer and Adamo were out, trying to convince people how, man, these got some bad cops out there. No, they're not all bad, but they're definitely bad. No, they would never wear a uniform. They wouldn't be bad. They're protect and serve. Well, they take that off the cars. And then all of the video and all the examples and all the lawsuits of just how they are, damn it, it was a credibility thing. It's always a credibility thing if you're not just going to get a win from the judge, which is rare, but they highlight, ooh, this guy got justice. They violated his rights but not using the right pronouns, so he got $60 million. I mean, that kind of crap. That doesn't, no. It's this, and that's why I want to end this episode with Chris Horlacher on that realization that it's the battle. It's the resistance. That is it. And once you wrap your head around that and you take it to as far as you can go with it, exposing along the way and doing what Chris is doing with the government and intelligence community in Canada, which is all Five Eyes was what our last show was focused on. This is a continuation of that.
It's like that movie 300. In 300, King Leonidas meets Xerxes on the battlefield, and Xerxes is basically like, so what do you think of my army? And Leonidas is like, they're shit. They suck. I might as well have brought my women here for all your men are able to do. Like your army's shit. You're a big giant polished fag. Get out of my country. And he's goading Xerxes, and it worked, because then what does Xerxes do? Throws his most elite fighting force at the Spartans, who are completely fresh at this point. They just arrived to the battlefield. They're ready to go, and they slaughter Xerxes' best of the best, the cream of the crop of his entire army, in full view of everyone. Now Xerxes' army is terrified and demoralized, and every single fight against the Spartans after that reflects their state of mind. Now, all Xerxes had to do was swallow his pride and send wave after wave after wave of crappy fighters you're willing to lose against the Spartans, wear them down over a few days, and then send the immortals. And you would have won. But it's very easy to bait tyrants. Leonidas knew it, and I knew it, and the guy in your story knew it too. And we've been doing it to great success.
We can go down that list. I mean, this is Persia and Trump. I mean, he's so predictable what's going to happen. So let's wrap it up, because I want to make sure that, I want to get this out right away. And it dovetails right in with, Edward Griffin in a few hours we'll have on. James Corbett and I are going to be talking about a lot of this kind of stuff. And it's a really good day. And tomorrow we got the Trump report. And then I got Mary Ruart from Liberty International, some of the events that they're doing. I mean, just in the next couple of days, I've been kind of not doing shows the past week, doing this other responsibility I had. And I'm going, to start off with Chris and this story sets the tone for everything else this week. I'm just, so it has an impact. Chris, thank you very much. Final word, people need to whatever and, support what you're doing. Go.
This is Sparta. And I got a big hole I'm going to throw you in.
No, you said it wrong. This is Sparta! Hey, thanks for coming on, Chris. I'm glad you're still at it. I don't think the word is envy your position, but I am appreciative. I'm telling you, this is, it's what to be known for is this kind of battle. And I think you set yourself up to be able to engage this really well. And you got friends and supporters out here all across the Liberty community. I'll make sure that, that the Spartan tale gets told. That's for damn Skippy, So that's what happens. Thank you very much, Chris. It's been great. Peace, brother.
Bye-bye.